Hey y'all, it's me again, Joey.
Well, ready to let them loose?
Yep, that's it. Let's see if they make us run.
Oh,
Probably so.
yeah, that one tried to get after him, but other than that, what can you expect? I mean, can you blame them? Oh yeah, they're getting after us now. Go, Joey, go!
They mad.
They're mad, buddy. I'm gonna get in the truck. You gotta go back and get your camera.
So
But also, just get as many as you can off the one next to it. Get out.
We gotta move away.
Do that side again. Y'all ready? Let's get started. Well, hello, everybody. This was a little bit of a surprise tonight. I'm sitting here waiting on Bob to get started, and got to looking around for him and went to Facebook and saw we wasn't even gonna do nothing tonight. Hope everybody over there in the chat's doing good. I see 33 mob bees. Huh.
Well,
Hadn't
yeah.
hadn't seen him in a while. How you, Mr. JW?
Earlier today, he was in a train wreck.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah. Hey, Carl.
Yeah, I got my heart skipped a couple of beats when I saw that, but after he said he was all right and everything, I felt a little better. And I've got the forget. I've got the link pin at the top. If anybody wants to come in, click on that thing. Come on in, help us out. Me and Mr. JW, and we'll get talking about the same old thing every day, won't we?
Yeah, just about.
I ain't done anything bee wise, not a thing. But
Yeah,
I tell you what I am going to do. I've got 2 yards that I put those tote feeders out,
yeah.
and they ain't a bee touched it.
Wow.
I even put a little lemongrass oil on them to draw them over there,
Mm-hmm.
and for whatever reason, they're not touching it. Oh,
Hey,
look
so
at
I
here.
put out some pollen, and it's all
Yeah.
gone. Look at there. There's the old
Yeah.
Mr. Eatwell.
He needs to put JW's wannabe best buddy.
Yeah. I told you, Mr. Eatwell.
Yeah. But I'm gonna go look at them again maybe tomorrow if I get a chance. I didn't even hardly get a chance to catch up today. For a retired fella, I've been mighty busy doing nothing. But maybe tomorrow I go look at them. If there's no bees hitting it, I'm gonna pour it over into buckets and bring it back home to these, because this big yard, they sure tearing it up.
I put out some substitute pollen. I think I mentioned that in one of our previous chats or streams, and it's all gone this morning.
Yeah.
My bees didn't move today till about 1 o'clock. They all clustered up, I guess, this morning earlier. I went out and checked, and we had 27, I think it was here, but it got actually nice this afternoon. It got up to almost 50. No breeze. It was pleasant. Yeah. I think my best buddy down there in Show Me Land is must have a girlfriend or something. He spent a lot of time on that telephone. He's looking down that doing that text. He's probably got a woman on the side.
There she is, right there. I don't think any one of us in here could handle more than one. All right, so let's be honest with each other.
Oh, look at there.
Zip it. Nope.
You couldn't find anybody else to deal with Tom anyway. I'm stuck
You
with
never
him.
know. Slide on this side.
Oh. Almost got rid of everything. There you go.
You'll slide in right here.
Well, yeah, even after I saw that post Bob had put that he wasn't coming on, I texted or messaged Brad, figured he must, I went and looked on his YouTube first and didn't see anything, and I asked him if he was going to do one, and he said, I thought Bob was coming on tonight, so kind of surprised the both of us, because
Well, maybe he'll pop in there a bit.
Usually, you know, kind of between me and Brad and one or two more, we try to do Bob's for him if he's not there. But he didn't say a word to the last minute. But that's neither here nor there.
I didn't watch him, but I seen it showed up that he'd had on a couple of lives with that yesterday. He maybe Sunday, maybe it was when he's out in his bee yards, but I didn't watch him, but I seen where they'd been on.
I finally got we didn't really talk, but when I made the apology to Cayman, I tagged him in that video the next day or so, or sometime or another. Tagged him in it, and I asked him the other day about comments in another video if he had saw it where I tagged him, and he said no. And I told him where it was at, and he went and found it. So we had a pretty good discussion there. But so maybe one day he'll be coming on here with us.
Well, something here to start the conversation with. That scene you see behind me, that's in the Expo Center down there where Navi is, and then that's the I showed cattle down there for several years, and that was a cow and a calf that I had down there. I think that was in 14 or 15, and that's the mama and that's the baby there. And that's all took place right there in that hall. That's a big place. If you guys were over there and didn't get out of that honeyberry area and look around, well, that's where the knobby is only maybe eighth the total size of that building. That's all under roof.
Hey Nancy, I think it's the live Saturday night of 10/19. If I got my dates right, you can go to it and look in the description or the comments and see the timestamp, and you click on that, and you get the whole story right there. It's kind of funny after the fact.
Hey JW, who's showing those cattle behind you? That's not you.
A friend of mine and his daughter. That was my cow and calf. I won the top cow and calf in the Angus breed down there. That was in 14 or 15. I have to look up my records.
Did they have a new couch?
That's where the University of Louisville, believe it or not, that floor, they always cover it with, that's just wood chips. And they dye them all green for that show. It was just over for this year. Usually it was somewhere around 25,000 head of livestock goes through there. It's the first week of November every year.
That's quite a bit.
That's actually a basketball. Well, it's a combination. They take the floor up. That's where the University of Louisville plays basketball. That's Freedom Hall there.
Yeah. Have you ever went to any of the like farm equipment conventions?
Yeah. That's there? February.
They have some big ones there, don't they?
You have to fill the whole thing with farm equipment.
I don't know if they have like I guess they do lawnmowers at the same time.
Every piece of mechanical.
Anything from small equipment, chainsaws, all the way up to big tractors and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, you can't imagine anything in the farming community of all types of farms, whatever it may be. They'll be there at the farm show. It's in February every year. It's usually, I don't know, 3 or 4 or 5 days of that.
Yeah.
And they use that whole building, Joey.
Yeah. You see that comment? You see that comment right there?
Yeah. Well, I tell you, I was out at the farm working, and I didn't have any way to town, so I had to hitchhike. So I put on this yellow jacket so no one would pass me by.
Yeah.
Sure enough, the first lady that come along picked me up.
Really?
No, I'm lying. I'm lying. It's just.
Yeah.
I went down to to see. I don't know if anybody's familiar with Mr. Dwayne Davis. He's the owner of Dogwood Bees. He's been at Nobby every year, Hive Live, and since it started. And he's selling out to a new owner. His Miss Kimberly, his missus, she's got some real serious ailments. And the new people's taking off. They are coming to Nobby, and they're going to drive down just for Friday and come back home. It just wears her out, and she's basically totally incapacitated. She can't walk, can barely talk. You can make her out if you give her a lot of patience, but bless her heart, they need everybody's prayers. If you got an extra prayer to throw out there, throw it out there for Mr. and Mrs. Dwayne Davis at Dogwood Bees in Boonville, Indiana.
Okay. I don't know if Gunline Bees are in here yet, but they could probably put them on their prayer list too.
I've been able to mention to Tim and Hannah, and I keep forgetting on Sundays to put them on the prayer list.
Well, it looks like you might have to go from the 19 up to the next size. I don't know if you can get too big as long as you can get it in your door. Because I could fill that one up or one bigger than that. And it'd all be the same. That's pretty fast selling out though, isn't it? This early.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. I tell you what, the first it was actually still Hive Life then. First one I looked at, well, y'all can't see it because I got that screen background on, but it was the evening that it started, when like the meet and greet. I went up there and looked at that thing, and I told Mike Berry, we standing there looking at it. He said, "You better get it." I said, "I like it." He said, "You better get it." I said, "I'm going to get it first thing in the morning." And that next morning, when they opened the doors, I went straight to it. and because everybody else was fixing to go to the all the meetings and everything, I went straight to it and it had sold out on the thing. Sure did. I ended up getting my bottling tank that year, I think. Said I'm not coming home empty-handed. Hey.
She had to stop for me. And I laid down in the middle of the road. She either had to run over me or stop. So she stopped. She made me ride in the back. It was a pickup truck. Well, I'm stirring up a lot of conversation here with my
Oh,
my bright yellow hoodie.
you corrected
Thanks a lot, Todd.
it.
I may wear that to Nobby so everybody know me.
I've never heard of that one. Huh. Oh, I clicked on the wrong one. Let's see. That's the one I was clicking on. Hey, Randy. Yeah, we got 57 in here. Pretty good crowd.
Is for a couple.
Melissa must be really getting on to Tom good about something.
Yeah.
They just disappeared, didn't they?
It's Sonny and Sarah show. They'll be back after a while. They get the world all settled down. If I got one, I'll have it.
Yeah.
John, I'll be. Uh-oh, yes.
There he is. No black eyes.
That's an old cheapy Helco. That's just top the rock stuff here, buddy. See that? If you got it, flaunt it. No, I cleaned up part of my mess today while you guys were off.
Okay, let's see what Amber said
You
here.
guys, I don't know what were you doing there? Smooching?
No,
Smooching
I went
in
and got the
private?
shirt on.
No.
No, Tom was eating. He doesn't like to eat on camera, so he's finishing dinner food.
Had to eat my dinner.
Yeah.
Hey, I have a good topic that we could discuss this evening.
Okay. We got about an hour and a half.
Okay. Hold on. What are you trying to
Well,
say?
you got him off the way he gets to going. An hour and a half, not near enough. For that
Yay.
boy.
You know what? Let's just scrap that idea then.
No, come on.
So I had been talking to actually Matt with Sandy Valley. You still in here?
He was. I seen him post there.
Yeah. Post if you're still on here, listening, watching, whatever. So I was talking with Matt the other day. Matt is Matt at Sandy Valley Honey Company. He's, I don't know, probably only maybe 20 miles from me. So he's not far. He's still in Missouri here with me. He's been on chats more often. You'll see him kind of sometimes in the background commenting and stuff. And so the one thing that him and I were talking about that he did the other day and really kind of got me thinking just a little bit actually was the process of inverting sugar. I'll kind of start off with saying, hey, Matt, you and I were talking about this, and Joey, could we drop the link? Maybe he could come in,
I think the link is on
or
there.
I could send it.
The link is on there. You can come in.
So Matt, you ought to come in here on this chat and we can discuss that. So I'm talking about inverting table sugar so that it can be more easily digested for honeybees, and different things that you can do to kind of get it to that. So I had been doing a little bit of research, and Matt and I kind of been talking a little bit. He actually posted a video. So if you go to Matt at Sandy Valley Honey Company, you'll see he posted a video today, but I think he posted one the other day. And Matt, you'll have to help me, correct me if I'm wrong here. And that was fondant that he actually made by using inverted, just granulated table sugar. So apparently, if you can actually dissolve granulated table in in warm water, and you can add some type of an acid to it, whether it be a citric acid, I think you can use probably vinegar, apple cider vinegar, anything like that, which you're helping to invert that sugar. Okay, let's see where I at on that. Because now what you're trying to do is break down table sugar or sucrose. You're trying to break it down to glucose and fructose. So those are the two things that are more easily digestible. So it's probably, I would guess that the bees will probably still add some sort of enzyme to that, even if they're just digesting it. But I don't know that for 100% actually. But I just thought that would be kind of a good topic in case people feed like, candy boards or a homemade fondant or something of that nature. But, I think that, I've heard some guys in Missouri talk a little bit about, they kind of get a little twitchy, to be honest with you, when you start talking about putting on candy boards, you start putting on, fondant, things like that, because they're claiming that you should consistently feed a heavy liquid. If you were to feed like a 2-to-1 sucrose or table sugar, anything to table sugar, I don't think will stay suspended in water beyond that 2-to-1, which is about a 66% solid. Now, if you went to high fructose corn syrup, I think that's somewhere up closer to like 75 to 77% solid. But obviously, they're using corn syrup, not sucrose. And believe it or not, there actually is a difference when you feed them. It may be very, very small, but there's actually a great video, and I've mentioned this before. Bob Benny does a video, and he has on, it's not Keith Delaplane, it's Melissa, who is that again? I always forget his name, Lewis Bartlett. And Lewis Bartlett actually breaks down, I think this video is maybe, I want to say 1 or 2 years old. So if you go back and look, you can find it.
It's from the spring.
I think Lewis Bartlett's also done, you can find a couple different studies out there that he really kind of dives down the wormhole on that if you're really interested to kind of nerd out on that a little bit. But he talks about the differences in feeding the table sugar or sucrose to honeybee colonies as opposed to high fructose corn syrup, and also what happens in the colony when that does happen. Now, you could probably argue a half a dozen different ways that honeybees can overwinter on high fructose corn syrup just fine. And I don't disagree with that. There's plenty of commercial guys that's pretty much primarily what they feed, because the cost involved is much, much cheaper. So, but I kind of been thinking a little bit about it myself. So in the past, Melissa and I have put on, I don't want to say candy boards because we don't cook it down. I'll say kind of the method that JW has used here in the past, where the only difference is I'm not putting pollen in mine as opposed to what he's doing there. But if you, so I would basically take table sugar, citric acid, usually Honeybee Healthy, and also some sort of, you don't have to, because if you add citric acid, you don't really need to add vinegar or apple cider vinegar, but I mean, you can, that's kind of helps with the inversion process, I guess. And we would basically just lightly add a little bit of moisture to it. It wasn't much. I don't remember the ratios. Melissa has it. And we would lightly pack it in our feeding boards, basically we'd use quarter by quarter hardware cloth, and we'd use a really, really cheap paper towel to kind of line the bottom of it, and then we'd pack it in there. So the bees would chew it from the bottom, they'd pull the paper towel out, and they'd consume the candy board. And I have overwintered bees on that really well. Last year, I didn't want to do that. Had more colonies. I had 98 colonies going into winter, and I really didn't want to build that many candy boards because as JW knows, that's a lot of work. And it's not particularly fun. So I got an extremely good deal on the Hive Alive fondant patties, and I fed, I think it was 2 pounds to most, but some of them got an additional 2 pounds on there. Some of the larger, more robust colonies got a little bit more, and they seem to do fine on it. I can't say if they did better on one than the other, but nevertheless, they survived, and a lot of them are coming out of the winter looking really good. So I'm just curious if anybody in here has made that inversion process happen by adding these acids in there, and then maybe lightly cooking it, because the things that I was actually able to find, I don't remember where it was at. If you were to, a couple areas, I think it was on Better Bee, actually, if I remember right. I was kind of looking at it. I thought it was somewhere between 122 or 120 to 140 degrees. And you kind of hold it there. I don't remember the length of time, but I'm just curious if anybody has done that or has ever researched that a little bit. My thought is this: if I'm going to bother to make up some candy boards as my insurance policy, then I would rather do something that's going to really add benefit to the honeybee colony. So you have to hold it at 230. Okay. I think what I read was somewhere between 220 and 240, which obviously that's dead center. So 275. So that's one thing Matt was talking about too. And actually, Joey, is that link posted on here for anybody to join in?
Yeah,
it is.
Yes,
Hey, Matt, if you're still on here, man, click that link. Come in here. Let's talk about this. And everybody can put a name with the face and the face with the name and all that good jazz. So I don't know if there's anybody else that's done it, Brian, Todd, if you've got some sort of secret recipe or a grave understanding of this or whatever, let's, I'd love to kind of dive down this little rabbit hole right here and see what that looks like.
There we go.
And there he is. Matt with Sandy Valley Honey Company here in Missouri.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, Matt.
Joey, nice to meet you. JW.
Nice to meet you too.
Yeah, how you doing?
Doing well. Sorry.
Are you feeling the pressure, Matt?
Yeah, it took my phone is about to die, and then I had no way of having anything that's not really cluttered. So here I am in the garage with a bunch of
that works.
poles, growing motor, and you name it. It's in the garage here. So
nobody's here to judge, Matt. We all have clutter somewhere around our house, or we have tools to make a living. So you're in good company. Hey, if you don't mind, share with everybody what you had done and then what you were noticing with your bees. You and I kind of spoke about that about a week and a half ago.
Yeah. So, and Tom and JW, I'm sure you're well aware, being in relatively the same area, our bees have been flying. It's been relatively dry, just a couple inch rains here now and then since the hurricanes came through earlier, and just a really dry fall overall. And bees seem to, keeping them heavy. I've fed some of our later splits in midsummer. We've probably fed 9 gallons total, just to keep them building and never letting them decline. So always putting them in a forward progression. Kept us with a lot of feeding and maintenance. So heading into later in the fall and early winter here, just noticed a lot of that flight activity staying pretty true, and tried to find a way, because they were getting to the point where they were not taking any more syrup. So I had, I was satisfied that all the girls were sitting where I was, hefting them and feeling that they were plenty heavy. And then it came to the time where it's about to be deciding on a winter feed. So winter shims went on, and really just kind of thinking about the fondant time. Big fan of Hive Alive. I didn't really want to do the sugar bricks. My mentor His advice was the mountain camp method. And I just kind of figured, this is only my second year into beekeeping here, and we grew last year. We had 8 hives going into winter, and 4 of those died before the first frost. And so came out of winter with 4 surviving, and built it up in the heat of the summer up to 80. So we're taking about, I think, 70 hives in the winter right now, including double screen boards, all kinds of things. So there's different situation. There's production hives. There's next year's heifers or production hives coming into spring, and just trying to see how we could keep on a steady, consistent, cost-effective way of feeding that many hives. Because doing the math, I think that I can get Hive Life Fondant locally through James at Izzybees is about 120 with tax for the 2.5 pound packages, 50 box. So you do the math, and I had done a video, and I'm such a rookie with the technology. I text like a grandpa, so the fact that I can even pull off a short, do anything on YouTube is a minor miracle in of itself. But so trying to find a way of putting all the feed that I felt comfortable giving to these girls, knowing that they're burning valued weight. I mean, I worked hard getting all that feed to them, hefting buckets down the hill, you name it, and they're doing their thing in the bee flight, but they're really going through their stores quick. So I really had to kind of do some investigating, and pretty much everything that I know, I just watch and observe from you guys on these jets. Charlie, Sawmill Charlie, Bob Walker, Joey, Mike Berry, Greg Byrne. I mean, I could go on the list. Ian, Keeman. A lot of these people are really, Bob Benny, of course. But there's a bunch of people that I found through surfing the whole YouTube conundrum, if you want to call it that, and put in that time. There's golden nuggets to pick up, and that's basically what I tried to do. So in coming into winter, I wanted to feed most efficiently and most effectively. Pricing out the Hive Life Fondant for 70 some hives going into winter would be quite expensive, considering that they're eating as of right now, they're eating about a 2.5 pound a week, and these hives were completely fed up. They're still heavy, but they're still consuming a lot of source, resources. So could really just kind of brings us back into the Tom, your and I conversation about inverting the sugar. Just been doing a fair amount of research, watched every video that I could find on candy board making, fondant making, you name it. And through the process of hydrolysis, we can actually create honey from sucrose sugar just by inverting that with an acid such as vinegar, lemon juice. There's different ways, but with the vinegar and inverting that sugar, about 230 in softball state for 20 minutes has made all the difference. So I've made about 150 pounds of fondant, and I've distributed that on all of our hives right now. Anyway, so I peeked into them. Actually, today is the last one that I fed up, and they went through two Hive Alive packs in the last 2 weeks. So we have, Tom, JW, as you know, our temperatures are dropping pretty quick. We're going to get a couple nights in the teens. That's quite the change. So I suspect that their feed level will go down. But going into that really cold stage, I just wanted to make sure to top them off with what I can make cost effectively, and it comes down to roughly, I haven't done the exact math on it, but 100 pounds worth of fondant making was able to top off all of those hives. And I mean, I'm going to go check them in another week and a half maybe, but I suspect when I go back that they will have all the food that they've needed, to to keep them on that forward path heading into the colder part of winter.
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree with everything you said 100%. You know, like you said, what we were experiencing here was to where our fall flow was pretty much non-existent because we had a lack of rain for almost basically one solid month. There wasn't even a drop.
Right.
So that took any plants that we could have had potential on, which we were actually starting to look pretty good, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But after the remnants of Hurricane Helene kind of was just hitting us, you know, just barely, and dumped a couple inches of rain on some of us. I think JW got a little bit less, but it was enough to kind of wet the ground a little bit. I was thinking that maybe if we were going to get into some trend like that, we were going to see some glimmer of hope, you know, maybe that nothing that we can harvest, and I don't even care about that, but just thinking of something that'll build the weight up in those colonies so that we don't have to come back and spend hundreds of dollars feeding 70 colonies, or JW's 35, 36, you know, our 150-ish. You know, things like that. That gets really expensive. And particularly if you're wanting to feed sugar as opposed to high fructose corn syrup or something else, that makes it even more costly, right?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
That's why I was glad that you actually kind of dove down that rabbit hole, or that wormhole, so to speak. And you and I had that seemed like a long conversation that day, you know, probably lasted an hour or better, you know, just kind of talking through that and seeing what that looked like. And I was curious to know what you found and what you noticed any difference, you know. And, you know, I don't know. I mean, I'm not a researcher, but maybe bees can do just fine on table sugar, granulated table sugar. But I like to think that if it is now inverted, that makes the process that much easier, because I think then they don't have to expel the energy any longer to get to that. I think it's extra digestion or something. I was kind of reading on it a little bit.
Yeah.
And I forget the other details about it specifically. But
yeah, it's basically, I mean, and I'm sure a lot of people know, so I'm reciting their knowledge already. And but the honey crop, basically, the invertase enzyme with the honeybee, they're basically inverting that sugar from sucrose into glucose and fructose, so they can better basically polysaccharides and disaccharides and the monosaccharides. So in inverting that sugar up to that key temperature and holding that, we're basically taking a long strain molecule of sucrose and breaking that down. So when you can actually watch that sugar kind of come up, and when it comes up to that foaming temperature, it gives up, it inverts right then and there. And when that foam goes down in the pan, I'm talking about cooking on the stove. None of what I'm describing is simple. It takes time and a little bit of effort. But I feel like I've worked really hard for these bees. I've given them my all and put a lot of time, effort, and money. So I want to, basically see the season through and give them everything that I'm able to give, whether it be a little bit of research or studying, and trying to figure out how I can cost effectively as much as I want to, in a sense, and not have to cut back, because it's like, man, $120 for a pack of fondant. I'll go through 5 boxes and cardboard left. It's just like, there's wrappers. It adds up quick. So feeding style. I think it's important to do as much research as you can, and basically just not spoil your bees, but give them everything in your power to give them what I feel like they deserve. So. And doing a little bit more research too, just even how the honeybee actually drinks or consumes. It's even doing some slow motion camera work or a lot of observation. I'm a very observant person by nature, and I'll go down and literally just stare at bees. I'll get out my phone and take slow motion videos and watch how they land, how they take off. They're coming back heavy with nectar, how they, you name it. But just trying to learn and trying to pick up as much information as I can.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, I feel like, just to brag on Matt for just a minute, because I haven't even known him that long. And I'll tell you what, when him and I had connected and realized we were here in St. Louis, and he reached out to me. I mean, when him and I actually you, myself, and the girls, went out and grabbed dinner. And I mean, we stayed and shut that restaurant down, didn't we?
We did. I
don't think anybody's surprised by that.
Hey, y'all hold on just a minute. There is DC. I've been worried about that man all day.
Okay.
I'm glad to see him here because the last time I could find where he posted anything was like 6 days ago, and I was kind of worried about him.
I
Glad to
haven't,
see
I
him
haven't
post
seen
there.
I haven't seen a recent video from DC's bees. So
I did.
Well,
Didn't he post one today, or am I wrong?
About 2 days ago,
Okay.
but
okay.
yeah, but he hadn't responded to anybody, so we
I'm
was kind of getting concerned.
I can almost hear his music that he has in the background of those.
Yeah,
It's like such a peaceful sounding. So I'm
good
jealous.
to, good to see him on here.
Yeah. Welcome back, DC.
One quick question right here, Matt. You going to Navi?
Yes. Yep. My wife and I are going to be there.
Great.
I told him, hey, Brian, I told him he had to. It was no choice.
Yeah. Yeah. Brian at Flower Street, I had reached out to him earlier this season and just kind of asked him questions regarding writing my first not pollen contract or pollination contract, but taking bees to a winery. Tom, I know that we had briefly talked about that and some of the risks and a little bit of that, with the fact that they spray and some of the items that go on and that type of an agriculture situation. And there's definitely things, to nuances of it for sure. But Brian at Flower Street was more than accommodating. I literally just went on his website, looked up his cell phone number and called him. He called me back. We may have exchanged a missed call here or there, but he was such a gentleman and so helpful. It was like I had known him for years. And here's this, little nerdy kid from St. Louis who's been keeping bees for under 2 years and reaching out. He could have blown me off and not called me back, but he took time out of his day and answered my questions and we had similar conversation. But it's just kind of like, it's almost like on Ricky Rourke's that bee connection, and I was paraphrasing that on his. It's a definite thing, so.
Oh, for sure.
I really appreciated Brian too for that.
Yeah, what's cool about these chats is, sometimes we kind of regurgitate the same old information and it seems like it gets boring from time to time and all. But
Sure.
You know what? It's like one big family that comes back in constantly and we're like, hey, what's everybody got going on? And hey, what's up, Joey? What'd you do today? And hey,
I've watched Charlie's show for the longest, and I've sat on the background. I didn't even know what the chat was. I had no idea. I was watching it from Safari. I wasn't watching it from YouTube. So, I would just, I didn't even know a chat existed. I felt like that was a VIP lounge or something. So then I started, and I on a lot. So you kind of called me out and kind of threw me in. So I appreciate that, Tom.
Hey, it's kind of like we're going, buddy. Kind of like Thursday when we see everybody. Hey, how you doing?
Yeah.
It's good to see you. Boy, I'm glad they gone.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
That's funny.
I may interject here a minute, Matt, if I may. Have you made a video on your process?
I have not. Actually, to give you an idea, Tom and I reached out to Tom because I was so excited after I started making it. And the part that I'm most excited about is that due to the process of the length of time that you're inverting that sugar for 20 minutes at that right temperature, along with the acid, you're creating after a certain amount of time, you're actually creating this super saturated sugar solution to where it's not a brick anymore. It's literally it turns the corner after you cook it to that temperature, to let it cool, and then you hit it with a whip or a drill. I use a Milwaukee drill in the same kettle that I cook it in, actually the stainless steel pot, and I whip the tarnation out of that, and it turns into let's call it a soft brick. So you can actually, when I put it in the Ziploc bags, you can take that and mash it with your hands and turn it into, I dare say, I'm not trying to say I'm making high live fondant because I have no idea what the recipe is, but I can tell you that the consistency is extremely similar. So much so that I've done tests. So all of my hives now have it on there, but last Saturday was the first day I put it on. And every day since then, I've gone down to select hives, take a short little video to see their interest, to see if they're consuming it, and So I'm being the guinea pig before
But it is a
broadcast it.
a soft brick, so to speak.
Yes. Yep.
And you're just putting it in plastic bags.
I'm putting it in a Ziploc bag, and actually, I did another video, some open feeding, where I was just poking holes or cutting some slits on Ziploc bags on they're actually cedar benches that we cut on our sawmill. But I set those up, and I was kind of doing a test because I've heard other people doing baggy feeding on top of hives, and that just really that really worried me about leaking. I didn't want to put a gallon or a quart of liquid over a hive and have it leak out. So I did those tests, and I actually used those bags and recycled them, and then mashed up the fondant in there, like a Hive Life pack. How you cut, you cut the Hive Life emblem up and you turn it upside down. On this one, what I did, because I didn't know the consistency, I cut a nice square out of the top and left it facing upright so they could access it from the top. We do an 1.5-inch feeder shim on top. Yeah. And they can access it on the top, but I also did 3 or 4 slits on the bottom, and they're really taking to it quite so. We also.
Well, I was going to ask you, but you answered my question. You don't use parchment paper or anything to put it in. You actually just put it in a plastic bag.
So coming out. So after I cook it for that 20 minutes and then let it cool down. I have parchment paper, but I took a little bit of olive oil or vegetable oil and just barely, I guess you could use some sort of spray, what have you, but I didn't want to use the wax paper just because of the paraffin possibilities. Yeah. So I had parchment paper and just a little oil, and that same bit of parchment paper has lasted every batch that I've made. And I think I ran 10 batches through it now, to give an idea. So you can constantly reuse that parchment paper. But so after I let it cool, to give you an answer for that, I would cut it with the pizza cutter into those squares, the Ziploc, and then take it to the yard with those squares. And just with my hands, before I went into that hive, I would just break up that hive's amount and then cut the square and slits and just set it right on top of and on my feeder sims, I have a 1/2-inch wire with a 3/8 B space. So on top bars, they're able to completely walk around that whole hive and not have to walk around a bag, So what I've found is those bees seem to take that sugar and pass it down. I don't know if it's from like a festooning type action, but it seems like they're passing that instead of having to walk around to do, it's like a vertical passing of resources. So
is that too soft to use for queen candy too? That same blend?
We reared a fair amount of queens this year, and when I would hatch them out of the incubator, I'd put a little Hive Alive fondant in the end of my Daisy Beezy little, the queen cages. I found is the Hive Alive fondant, they were actually, the queens would almost bury themselves up in there and almost get trapped up in the, the neck of that. So I'm pretty careful of that, but I would assume and I have kind of like I sent Tom a picture of this on his cell phone, but it's kind of like a slump test. So I've made every batch that I've made, kind of like in concrete, I did a slump test and then just made like a 1 by 1 inch square with my fingers and mound a perfect square. And I set it all, so they're all sharing the same temperature. And I just wanted to make sure the consistency was going to stay malleable and consistent, basically.
Yeah. And so when this thing completely melt on them, right?
Right. And my biggest worry really is just like the Ziploc, the baggy feeds, is that I was going to put something on there and it was just going to, come down to the top bars. You don't want anything spilling, no matter what time.
What's the maximum temperature you run, and how long did you run it?
For the cooking?
Yes.
It was, and I'd have to double check my notes, but I want to say my thermometer, and I use a little candy thermometer. Yeah. I want to say it's 234 of the softball stage. Yeah. No higher than that. But the key for me was to bring up that temperature on high, constantly stirring that sugar. And it would come up to that 230, 234, 230. I'm trying to think exactly what it was. I have it written down, but that softball stage and then I kept it right there. It didn't drop any. It didn't go over that. It didn't go any less. But on my burner on my stove, it's a gas oven or stovetop, and it would be on high, constantly stirring. And as soon as that inversion process happened, it's basically the perfect temperature. I mean, it's telling you at that temperature when it foams up like that, that's perfection. So
Shut her down, run her cool.
that's the wave you want to surf and hold that temperature for 20 minutes, and then that long extended sucrose molecule is weakened, and then when you let it cool and hit it with that whip, it turns into mashed potatoes, and it's like might be another way to describe it. It's a super saturated. It's not a liquid form, and it's not a solid. It's moldable. It's kind of like Play-Doh, I guess. Play-Doh potatoes, but not runny, not leaky, not so. That's really the part. Anything that's made with sugar, right? The bees are going to consume.
Well, that's basically the consistency of Hive Alive Fondant. Is just
it's extremely similar, and I'm sure. I'll have to look around, make sure the Hive Alive police aren't coming.
I've looked at those.
I'm telling you,
it kind of sounds like a taffy texture.
It's maybe a soft taffy, yeah, not Laffy Taffy, not like pull apart like that. Like it would break apart before then. So it does have some dryness to it, but back to learning a little bit more how the bees are feeding. Their tongues, I guess nectar from a flower, they're going in and drinking straw. But this fondant, from what I've seen, they like lay their tongue out, and they're I don't know how to describe it, but I feel like a real gritty surface would almost be like sandpaper to a really, really delicate. I would think a bee's tongue would have to be extremely delicate, and it's just. I guess that's the level that I'm trying to take my beekeeping, is that if there's something that simple that I could do, and it's, spend 30 minutes making a batch of fondant for them, that's what I'm going to do. So it's not going to be for everybody, because it does take effort. Just like, to be honest, keeping a healthy bee colony takes a lot of effort, but a little effort in the late innings here, that's like the last lap on the track for me, and make sure.
What's your ratio of whatever you're using for the acid, whether that be vinegar, or what are you using for the actual acid?
It's distilled white wine vinegar at a 5%.
Yeah. And what's your ratio on that sugar to vinegar?
So is what I'm using right now is 10 pounds of table sugar, and 50 milliliters of white vinegar, and 1,000 milliliters of water. Exactly. So not 950 milliliters of water. It's, it's all done on a digital scale, and at least the water's done in just a measuring cup with just looking at the meniscus like I'm in chemistry class. But yeah, just following it to a T. But also not getting in trouble, because I can cook it on the stove, come out to the garage and whip it with my drill. And I don't worry about the mixer or any mess for the wife to put up with a lot with everything I'm doing.
That's right.
I don't know if I can make it or not. I don't know if I can get my wife to stir that for 20 minutes at a time.
Yeah,
it does take some active stirring, and you're dealing with a hot, scalding candy. So it would absolutely. We have little kids. We have a 7-9-year-old. The 18-year-old, I probably don't have to worry about him anymore, hopefully. But that candy making process can be dangerous. You're doing something extremely scalding hot off of the stove. Now it's cool enough to where I was able to let it outside and cool down. But so I would cook it at that softball stage for 20 minutes, let it cool down, and then when it got to about 125 degrees, I would add in. And this is the part I'm kind of playing with, but I have late in the season, I bought Hive Life supplement feed for liquid, and I put in gallons worth, so 2 teaspoons into that mix. Once it cools down to 125 degrees.
Yeah.
Of course, big Sawmill Charlie fan, I felt it only right to flick in a little apis. So I put in a gallon of apis in the small little tiny spoon that they provide you. I don't even know what that is, but it's the black one. It's just a tiny little 1 gallon serving of it, and that's and then 2 teaspoons of the Hive Alive. So with that, and that's at that 125 degrees when I'm really mixing it hard with the drill. That part right there is where it takes on the same consistency in that I'm considering it to be very similar to Hive Alive.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
yeah, and I think one thing you said.
I think a blindfold taste, not a taste test, but a blindfold smell test, you wouldn't be able to tell them apart.
Yeah. I think the one thing that's probably important that you mentioned there too is waiting to add that additive until it's actually cooled down. If you did it while it's up around that 200 degrees, you probably nuke anything beneficial that was in there. So I think that's a good point that people need to pay attention to. If you're going to do this, wait till that actually cools down. Otherwise, you're not going to do yourselves any good favors there.
Yeah, and everything being very intentional with this, even making, because anyone can make a candy board or turning it on and letting it heat up, not really watching it, but paying attention to it, you can create something that you'll be proud of. And so far, so good. We'll see how it goes here. I'm going to give it another week. But like I said, we have about 100 pounds of it out on our hives right now, and I've taken videos 72 hours in, so 24, 48, and 72, and yeah, they're doing well. I mean, they really seem like they're liking it a lot. Consistency staying just the same as when I put it in there, and that's 3 days at hive temperature. And we run a complete condensing hive, no upper insulation or no upper ventilation whatsoever. About an R15 on top, closed in, the chloroplast is in our screen bottom board. So you would think if a hive is going to be warm, it would be under those circumstances.
Yeah, definitely.
Matt, there's a question there. Have you tried adding pollen to it in that stage?
You could add anything that you want. You could add honeybee healthy. You could add lemongrass essential oil. You could add, any of the little nuances that you felt would do your management style justice. Once it cooled down to that safe temperature, I feel like the temperature, is, you could almost grab the side of the pot, almost cool enough to where you can't whip it because it would get too thick. So when you start whipping it at that 125 degree mark, it's still clear. But when you start turning that drill, you go through a battery. I go through almost a full battery on my Milwaukee drill, a 5-amp battery, whipping it up. So I'm a contractor by trade, so I'm mixing drywall mud with those types of drills all day, tile, mortar. It's just something that we do every day. So
if you don't mind, Matt, I'm gonna get your number from Tom there.
Yeah.
And I won't ask you to just put it out in the public, and I will be calling you.
Yeah, no, that's
on that. That's all right.
I was so excited after it worked out that I almost immediately reached out to Tom the next day after meeting with him and knowing that I felt like he would appreciate that kind of info. And
I just made 58 4-pound sugar boards, so to speak, and I finished up. I'm still in recovery mode from that crap. I hate doing those.
You know it well. And the one thing I'm doing right now, because I'm watching all those details on the temperature and how long it's kept at that exactly. So I'm still having to do it on a pretty small batch, so 10 pounds at a time. Yeah. But I love to either figure out 2 pots going at once, or I was thinking about maybe with Thanksgiving, the turkey baster, a bigger pot, to where I could do 20 pounds of sugar at a time. Would just cut the production time down. So start to finish, it takes 12 minutes on my stove, at least. It takes 12 minutes to get that 10 pounds of sugar to boil. And then you're cooking for 20 minutes. So that right there is 32 minutes. Got to cool down. So depending on how much ice you had to put in the ice bath, or how you're letting it cool down, it's going to take every bit of 30, 45 minutes to an hour at least. Just watching it, not babysitting it the whole time, but paying attention to what you're doing for sure.
Somebody else suggested on there on something I was reading, and you may not be able to hold it exactly at that, but if you're above a certain temperature, maybe it still works. If you actually take and put it in like a cooler, and somebody even suggested like one of the big igloo style coolers, if you put it in there, cover it, and then let it set, it may hold that temperature for a long enough period of time where you could get that batch off the stove. I mean, I don't know, because I really don't know what the temperature drop would be when you pull it off the stove. If it dropped just 10 degrees, if your cooler was already warm, what that would look like exactly. But
Yeah, that are you talking about like coming off of the stove to be able to reuse it to make another batch?
well, I was thinking like if you have to hold it at a certain temperature or near a certain temperature,
Right.
maybe you could pull it off a little bit early and throw it in this cooler. That way you can cut your 32-minute time down a little bit.
So
Again, just thinking out loud, I don't know.
yeah, to give you an idea, and with my thermometer, my son's actually a cook too, so he has a little handheld digital one that has a little probe on it. So I'm double checking that temperature with multiple thermometers, one electronic and one old school, like you're sick and mom was checking your temperature back in the day.
Oh yeah.
But with those, so I'm turning it on high for that amount of time, 12 minutes to get it to boil, and then 20 minutes. But in that 20 minutes of boil, my burner is still on about 3.
Okay.
So you're releasing a lot of heat in that to keep that liquid. That's the key, is what that's actually being inverted at and keeping that soft ball.
I gotcha.
So there's soft ball, hard ball, soft crack, and hard crack of sugar, in the sugar making world. Man, it's the softball stage is no higher than that.
Hey, Matt, Hope on here is asking, how long do you whip it? But you're not whipping it until after you hold it at that temperature, pull it off, let it cool, and then whatever you're adding to it, then you're whipping it, correct?
Yes. So I'm sorry. No, I will whip it first and then add. So I get that frothy kind of moussey meringue kind of cool whippy look to it. And then I will add in, and I did that because it would be the coolest at that point, basically right before pouring into my trays with the parchment paper. So it's as cold as it's going to get right there where I put in my Hive Alive and Apis.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, and I think what you're talking about too, putting them inside of a Ziploc bag, which is kind of, if you want to replicate that Hive Alive feel of how it's packaged and it keeping a certain texture and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
Doing that, either a sandwich bag, maybe for a nucleus colony, or a large 1-gallon bag, for a larger colony, makes the perfect sense, because you're gonna do the exact same thing. When you put it on there. I mean, when I've used Hive Alive, I cut a big square out in the bottom of it, pull that square out, I flip it straight down on top of them there. And honestly, I put it right down on top of on top of the frames, and they'll just access it up through all the gaps. So I mean, you had it suspended, you could do that. I don't think there's a right or wrong there, to be really honest with you.
Right. So my thinking with that, on my winter shims, I have that 3/8 B space all the way around, and that B space is 3/8. From what I gather, it's a 3/8 what they need to walk, but 3 inches also what they can reach and grab without any assistance. That's what they can grab efficiently to walk up. That's build that bridge comb, in between boxes, to get up from the bottom board and the, top and bottom box.
Yeah.
So it seems like if it's up above them, they're able to access that from 160 degrees versus just the slits per se. And that was just my thinking and why I wanted to give them that B space.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what else I didn't include on that. But yeah, I mean, at that point when it cools down, you could do the honeybee healthy, what have you. And back to Carl's, I think about adding the pollen. We're not trying for them to rear brood at all right now in our situation currently. Part of the season where we're at. No, someone else in another situation or different part of the country, absolutely, whatever they would think that they need to do, but we don't do that here at this time of year. We will put pollen patties on one time, and that's the 14th of February. I mean, just a little bit right before the red bud or the red maples come out.
Yeah. I would say, it kind of varies a little bit for us, obviously, because the temperature swings in Missouri, but I would say usually middle of February. I feel like it was a little bit earlier this year, but generally around the middle of February, we can start to see some of those open up.
Yep. So I know just enough to be dangerous. I'm going to throw that out there. Literally, this is my second winter, I either, I'm either, onto something or, I'm about to have a huge upset, either way, I'm having a ton of fun. I love it. It's the people that I'm meeting, by doing it, and the sales of honey and bees and queens and all of that's really been a cool thing.
Yeah. One thing somebody mentioned earlier in here too was about if you can use it for the candy plugs for queen cages and stuff. The only thing that I might point out that you could do, and I know Corey Stevens used this, he actually uses powdered sugar to make these candy plugs in. He doesn't use regular sucrose and do that. You probably could add, some powdered sugar to that if you really wanted to thicken it up a little bit. And I think you just kind of keep adding it and kind of kneading it just a little bit and then get it to the consistency you want. Because like Matt pointed out, I've actually done this before. When I didn't have a candy plug, I had some Hive Alive fondant that was from last winter. Now it started drying out a little bit, but not to the point of it being crumbly. So it wasn't quite as malleable. It was still malleable, but it wasn't as soft as it once was in the pack because it had been open for a short period of time. I actually roll that stuff up and I pack it really hard from both sides into the, what type of cages are those again? That we're using, the queen cages?
Easy peasy cages?
No, not the easy peasies. The regular with the little piece.
They're just queen candy cages.
Okay, well, anyway, so the tube on the plastic, I don't know what those cages are called.
The
JZBZ, that's it, not easy peasy. Yeah, JZBZ. I just stuff it from both ends, use a pencil or something like that, the eraser end or something, and I'm tucking it up in there really tight just to make it really hard packed, and that seemed to work just fine.
Okay.
Would they chew through a little faster? Possibly. I mean, if you want to slow that release down on it too, just take a cheap piece of masking tape and wrap over the top of that. Yep. Take a little bitty nail and just poke a hole in it to where they can actually. Are you leaving?
I'm waving at my buddy there.
I'm waving at Brad. I'm like, you leaving? So poke a little nail hole in the top of that.
Tom was
cheap,
offended there for a second, JW.
Well, I was wondering where he's going. I mean, he's good. He doesn't need to eat. He's all right. He can stick around. And then we got Mr. Brad rolls into the room. You got any advice to throw out here on the subject? None. I feel like you have something to offer here.
There's a man I watch every Sunday right there.
Hey, Todd. Hey, Brad.
Brad strikes
too
me.
busy motor mouthing. He didn't even.
I feel like Todd and Brad both have some good knowledge they could throw into this game here.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, I've been having my supper, so I've been sort of listening to conversation, and near as I can tell, Matt, from my beekeeping experience and my culinary background, I think you're on the right track.
Nice. I appreciate that. I was hesitant to even broadcast anything about it unless I really did enough research to at least halfway fake it and act like I'm talking about it.
If your bees eat it and they don't die, then you're on the trouble. Right?
Yeah, all right.
To the fact of the different vinegars, and it's vinegar turns out to be not very toxic to bees at all. I mean, matter of fact, it would be almost hard in some ways to hurt bees with vinegar, and household vinegar at least, right?
Yep. I agree with that.
So in that, just little things like that. In this area, we do have a small hive beetle. Those little stinkers somehow, some way are going to overwinter inside some of the hives. We don't see very many of them this time of year at all, but I'd be a liar if I said I didn't see one in the last week, and it just kind of ekes at you, because they're underneath a winter shim and you don't want to dig in the colony, so you have strong hives and you have the faith that they're going to be able to overcome that little obstacle, so that's all.
Yeah.
But that's it really came down to a cost saving thing for me and trying to figure out how to create this batch of a
lot of the fondants you buy are definitely rather expensive.
Mhm.
And so I kind of missed some of your stats, Matt. How many colonies you're putting this on?
Right now, in somewhere in between 70 and the low mid 70s, somewhere around there. I didn't actually
Okay.
count. We were up
You
to
said,
80, and I did some consolidating, so
yeah.
somewhere in the 70s.
I think you said you had about 100 pounds of it out there.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
the Ziploc bags that I'm making are about 2 pounds a piece, maybe in total. Some of them that I weighed maybe a pound and 3/4. Some of them are 2 pounds, but about an inch and a half feeding shim is what we're using, and they're about an inch thick in the thickest.
So the consistency is a little too soft to go without that kind of a wrap.
Wrap as far as the
Well, plastic bag,
yeah. So I did the plastic bag because I was worried about it maybe with with whipping it. I didn't want it to turn back in any kind of a syrup or any kind of a breakdown. I wanted it to
yeah, and you can never tell too. I've learned the hard way that you look at a product like pollen patty, for example. You can
Mhm.
say, "Well, that's good." You'd put that in, and you underestimate how warm it is in that hive.
Yep.
And after a day or two, it's running down the bottom board
Yep.
or something. So
So last year I kind of I tried different things, and I tried strong microbials also as a fondant with and they have I think it was rocket fuel added. It was
yeah,
last year's when I got it, but I did put that, and that's a very similar looking product. With that, what I found, if I didn't keep it on that wax paper or whatever came with it, that would absolutely run down on top bars, almost kind of like ice, kind of like angel food cake icing, almost more so.
yeah.
So that fondant, that's what I didn't want to have happen with this. So that's why I just did the slits to give them a little access.
Or something like that's wrapped in a parchment than a
Mhm.
plastic bag, just because
Yeah.
running a few more colonies, it saves me from worrying about going back to collect anything
Yep.
later on.
I was thinking almost like a parchment paper boat, like out of Staples, and making kind of like
Yeah,
paper plate of sorts, but something that could be
they
at
might be
the
a little
bottom.
bit
And
small for what you're doing, but I made my own pollen patties out of a dry mix that I bought, and I bought little parchment hamburger pouches,
okay,
and you get like 1,000 of those things for $1 or
yeah,
something.
yeah,
And those were really great because they're a little pouch. I don't
okay,
have to form anything. I can jam it right in there. Now with the fondant, you might actually end up, if you're going to use that, you might end up using 3 or 4 of them on a colony because they're not really that big.
hmm So
Yeah.
one cool thing about this is that you can portion out per the size hive. So if it's a 5 frame nuke, we have some mating nukes and 10 frame with the 5 frame divider. For each side, and we're able to portion. I guess you could do the same thing with Hive Alive. You just cut a quarter or half of it or whatever. But
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
got, I mean, you could almost make it to suit the hive and the hive's needs.
It's
And
always nice if you don't have if you don't have to go back for anything.
yeah,
It's
I was going to
always
put on
nice.
enough where you don't have to go back
Just
next.
forget it. Well, good. That's good info. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Matt, I'm not sure if you answered this question yet.
Mhm.
How much vinegar and when?
The vinegar right off the bat with the water and no heat. So 1,000 milliliters of water, 50 milliliters of white vinegar in the pot on the stove, but not on. And I would just swish that around so the vinegar and water is established together. Turn on the heat, and then in goes the 10 pounds of sugar immediately. So before that water gets above temperature, it's already being mixed on with the heat being applied, but it's already being mixed into that water as thoroughly as possible. And really, when that heat's coming up, you do not want any kind of caramelization whatsoever. That is absolutely, from my research, that caramelization would be poisonous or toxic to the bees. They cannot
Yes, it will.
whatsoever.
Yeah, that's
So
the
you
big
have
gotcha. That's the big, the line that you're up against all the time with this
yeah,
kind of thing. Anything you're cooking, I hear people cooking sugar syrup even on the stove, etc. And it's like it's so unnecessary, and yet it's so, coming up to that line of introducing a lot of HMF, and
Mm-hmm.
you want to kill your bees fast. Well, feed them a bunch
Mhm.
of HMF.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, this whole recipe is an extremely intentional way of feeding bees. So you can just go and buy the fondant, but you can also make this type of fondant and save yourself at least it. I think the math came out so well. I don't know what the math is, but I would need at least 5 boxes to efficiently put out what I would feel like would be enough feed for a month. Let's say.
yeah.
I've done that now with 100 pounds of sugar. So in a little bit of time. So under $100, and I probably put out, $600-700 of fondant value, if you were going to buy it.
Right.
So for me,
it's good. That's good of you to accentuate that you need to watch this. You need to be very deliberate with it, and don't.
absolutely,
You can't go and
really,
DC's got to make sure he doesn't get in that video game when he's making fondant.
oh yeah,
that kind of thing.
Can't take a phone call or go let
Because
the dogs
I know.
out or, yeah.
Just because of lack of content, I did some cooking videos last winter, and I think one of them was my caramels.
Okay.
I think. Anyway. Hey, JW. And it's exactly the same thing that you're talking about, with differences. I'm using honey, and I'm going past that stage.
Right.
I'm going to the caramelization stage, whereas with the fondant, you're absolutely not going that far.
And through the research or whatever, so you're creating a super saturated solution with this sugar, and with inverting that sugar fully, you've broken down those bonds to where they're totally, at least from what I've found, they're immediately accessible for the bees to digest or transfer to other bees throughout the hive, versus having to break that down and process it, whether they have to go gather some condensation and try and take a drink to process that sugar or break it down.
You mentioned that you have this condensing hive theory configuration. Do you see any change in the fondant because of the humidity in the hive?
None whatsoever. And that was really my the biggest concern, and again why it was in the Ziploc bags, with not put on like a Hive Life traditionally being upside down. My square cut on that bag was vertical, so they would have to either access it through the slits on the bottom or come up onto it, and that's where I found them. For the most part, they're just, the whole Ziploc bag is black in the middle, in that sense, is covered with bee coverage. With the bee space underneath, they're just able to completely envelop it if they need it. And right now it seems like they need it because they're really hitting it.
Well, like you said, hopefully they slow down here a little bit, because we are supposed to get some cool temperatures.
Yeah.
So I think they're going to actually kind of, they're going to get a little bit more sluggish, which that's kind of what I'm hoping for too.
Yeah. So they were sluggish enough today to where when they flew up, they would just kind of be landing on me, not flying, just kind of, or on my veil, or what have you. But they weren't trying to fly any more than they needed to. It was about
what temperature was that?
Oh, it was about 48 degrees when I was wrapping up.
Okay.
Cooling down, under.
I was doing this job today, and the little critters are crawling all over me.
Oh, I bet. Yep. So, I'm wondering, Joey, did I answer that last question that you had?
I may be wrong, but did not Cayman Reynolds put out a video or two here 2 or 3 years ago?
Somebody mentioned he did, yes.
Something similar to that. And also, I know that David Burns makes a so-called candy board that he cooks with a similar process, but it's hard.
Yeah.
And it's he actually sells them. They market them.
Oh, I bet.
He sells them to some of his people, but
yeah,
they're not soft. That's the reason I was asking about consistency on yours.
Yeah, it,
His David Burns, I've seen some of those, and those are actually harder than my sugar boards are.
yeah. So these will keep form. So I'll put them in one of the batches I make was I think 3 foil pans, kind of like a barbecue, pans or what have you, deep disposable, and then I lay the parchment paper in them. So one 10-pound batch would fill up 3 of those, maybe 12 by 14 pans, nothing huge, but they were deep. But they would fill up about an inch of that parchment paper in 3 pans, for a 10-pound batch, or 2 large cookie sheets, would do another, inch to inch and a quarter thickness in total. So, one of the biggest things, if anyone was going to try that, and maybe they've tried before, but any cooking with any kind of sugar, you have to a minimum of double the size of your pot.
Oh yeah.
You can't use, whatever you're making chili in to try to do something with sugar on the stove, because that high, when it inverts, that's going to foam up at least a minimum twofold what that liquid is.
I would go farther than that with my caution. I would say a good 4 times.
Yeah,
It's hard to clean up too, isn't it, Matt?
Yeah. And that's right at that stage. You almost can't be afraid of it now, because that's the magic. So right at that inversion, that sugar is begging for mercy, but you got to keep the heat to it, stir it just a little bit, not over stir it, but just walk that, and it'll immediately fold over, and it'll just those bubbles will go down, and that's
right. You're really just boiling the water out of it to create what you called that supersaturated solution. And in the pot I use for making caramels, I'll have this much honey, or maybe less, this much honey and whatnot in the pot, and the pot is this deep. And it'll mostly fill up. It'll almost go over sometimes when it gets going. So you cannot overestimate the size of pot you need.
So this whole fondant making thing is basically hydrolysis. So water and separating down molecular bonds with eating like super saturated solution, basically. And
it sounds like Tom's gonna take an electric burner out to the garage and make it out in the garage.
Yeah, I mean, Tom, come on down. We'll make a batch, or I'll come over.
I've been thinking of ways that you could do not 10-pound batches, but 50-pound batches or 100-pound batches, because I'm not a guy that has a lot of patience for standing at a stove. I can tell you
I
that.
mean, you're gonna be using one of those metal barrels that you bought.
Yeah.
So and with that, I would love to walk up production, but I'm still so new at it that it's just I'm just really trying to keep very intentionally making every batch repetitiously, and doing it very cautiously, and wanting to make it like the best batch. The batch wasn't good enough, I gotta make this one perfect, and it's every time it seems to be coming out. So and with that fondant, and one thing that I was kind of finding out is that through that what we're doing is kind of making honey out of sucrose. So we're breaking down that sucrose into something that's immediately able to be used by the bees, so they can almost skip the whole invertase thing, because they don't need to. It's already broken down for them, from my understanding at least. So it seemed like it would be helpful.
And see, that's what I was trying to accomplish too. I'm like, if I'm going to spend time in making a sort of candy board or fondant, whatever that might be, right? Because I really don't want to have to cook it. But, when I'm thinking about this, I'm like, I want it to be more than just an emergency. Hey, they can get a hold of some dry sugar that'll get them through until I can get maybe some more liquid feedback on them sometime in February, late February, because we'll start rounding some corners at that point.
Yeah.
Not fully, but we can start to round some corners and temperatures there, in our area. Because I don't have a problem putting heavy syrup back on them in the early spring to get them there too, just to kind of bridge some gaps until we get some nectar flows in there, and then I can pull it off.
I was kind of like you, Tom. From what I've gathered, I was hesitant to put on that fondant because I've been feeding these girls every week. I'd be going to these yards, checking, popping lids, seeing whether we're using division board feeders, the Man Lake division board feeders, all 10 frame. So these colonies, even if they're single, they're not small colonies, and they're consuming that. So in getting them what I felt ready for winter weight, they were still consuming this fondant. As soon as I put it on there, they just nailed it, and it was like went to town on it. So then it made me thinking, it's like, wow, they're out flying. If we really have a cold winter and I let them go through their stores and thinking they're all right, they're going to be short. And then I'm not playing catch up in a time of year where you can't play catch up.
Oh yeah.
That's really what led me down this road. I wasn't really even thinking it was fondant time at all. That's more of like a after Christmas special for me.
Sure.
But that's why it went on earlier this year. Everything this year was early, so I figured, well, I guess the fondant's gonna be early too.
I was just telling Melissa that I said we should try something here. I said I think I still have from last year. I think it's good for 2 years. I checked the date on it. Some Hive Alive fondant patties. I have 2.5 boxes left. Yeah. I'm like, we could go into a few different bee yards. We could throw some of those down on some colonies. We could make some fondant, throw some of that down on some more colonies inside the same yard, and switch it up amongst a few yards. And then maybe you talked about Strong Microbials has their own fondant and such too. We'll be talking to Earl. I mean, not only at Nobby, but he'll be at ours in February too. Cool. I may hit up Earl for a couple boxes just to try a couple things out. I'm just on a whim, just seeing what happens, right? Just an observation. And if I put in the same bee yards over a few different bee yards, I put Hive Alive, my own cooked stuff, and then use some of the Strong Microbials to see if there's any differences. It may be negligible. It may be nothing. So there may be larger.
Yeah, I'm kind of doing that right now, and I agree. That's really the only way, we're even going to be able to tell, or I'd be able to even tell that they like it more than, just a sugar brick, for instance. But I have in some of those hives, the Hive Alive pack that they haven't finished off all the way because we have that cooler weather coming for another week. We're getting down in the teens and what have you. So I scooted both of those sections of Alive, and I cut my Hive Alive right in half. I didn't just do the open score and set it on there. I cut the whole bottom out and cut it in half and put on each side because I have a middle wooden support in my feeder shim too. But on either side of that support board, I guess, basically. So when they didn't consume all of it, I just scooted it over and then added one of my homemade ones to it. So they have both to choose from. And they don't I can't say that they prefer the Hive Alive more than this homemade fondant anymore. I mean, they're equally all over it from what I've seen in the last couple of days.
Yep. Yeah, it's possible sometimes we may overcomplicate things, and it could just be sugar. Sure,
right.
And I'm not talking. I'm just talking specifically from the fondant you made and the fondant that Hive Alive has made themselves.
Sure.
That has their proprietary whatever in it.
Yep.
They could be viewing both of those as like, you know what? They're sugar there. We're not talking the difference of Mountain Camp method to fondant or,
they're dumpster they're going in dumpsters and
right.
Nectar, melted ice cream, and things out of all summer long. So they're highly efficient for sure.
Yeah.
Todd, I know you had something to add in there. You was gonna say what?
Yeah, Todd. Let's hear it.
I've been sitting here digesting dinner. I was full. I was happy as a seagull finding a French fry, and so I just sat back and rode the ride. What I was going to add to the conversation was, and somebody already mentioned it, Cayman made a video about inverting sugar a couple of years ago. And the temperature, as I said, you get up to, I think it's 232 degrees.
Okay.
But I can't remember how long you hold it there. The other thing that I remember, and I'd have to look back at the video, is that he used cream of tartar instead of citric acid. And I don't know if that makes a huge difference. And
Yeah,
thinking that's what it is.
I'm not. I have seen some other fondant recipes with that, Todd. I haven't. I didn't experiment with that yet. And what I found with those fondant recipes and those other videos of candy boards or what have you, it's either mix it with just a little bit of water and pack it in a shim, and it's kind of a dry, wet pack, and that'll harden up over time. Sugar brick or that fondant was like they got it up to 234 or 230, whatever it is, that softball, and immediately took it off the heat. I'm like, well, they're missing the whole magic. It's like it's for that duration of time, and it's basically that chemical reaction is, basically, and it's not something that you can shortcut.
I just used my friend Google to look up that temperature, and it says it's 235 to 245.
Okay.
Is softball.
Okay.
And the other thing that I'm remembering,
Good.
And like I said, it was 2-3 years ago. He was just making inverted syrup to feed, not making it for a fondant or anything else.
Wow.
Yeah, I remember that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So on the Google search Melissa sent me, it says the function of cream of tartar is to partially invert the sugar
sent
syrup.
it to you? Is she like a way far distance away?
Yeah.
Oh, there she is. I couldn't see. She was so far away. Okay.
I sent it to him like that.
Hey, she zapped it to me on the interwebs. This really smart device that lies to you sometimes.
I tell my son if he texts me or something from the other room, I was like, "That's satellite. Come around here and talk to me." So.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, okay. So the other thing it says, so it's partially invert the sugar syrup, but it also says this will prevent the fondant from becoming very hard. So it keeps it somewhat soft, but it also states if too much cream of tartar is used, the fondant will be very soft and runny. So there is a fine line there, obviously.
Yeah, that's
for baker's fondant also, though, probably.
Yeah.
For pastry fondant.
That's an ingredient I haven't added to it because I haven't needed to. And with that drill, I'm whipping that for let's say it's 5 minutes or so. I'd have to make a video to kind of show you the texture of it, but it's what I would consider to be whipped way better than what a kitchen mixer can do. It'd almost be like an industrial type of way of mixing it. I mean, I call it whipping it, but I'm mixing it, with that paddle drill, or it's actually for mud and drywall. And
it's a bigger, wide one, isn't it?
Pans, and just make a little batch in there. But it's, I don't know if I have.
Do you have a channel, Matt?
Here it is, right here.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Matt, do you have a YouTube channel?
Yeah, it's
okay.
Sandy Valley Honey Company.
Okay. But you haven't put a video up on this yet, have you?
No, I have not.
The whole process from A to Z?
No.
Oh, man, you should. That will get all kinds of views.
Yeah, I have not. I have not yet. Tom's kind of mentioned that might be something that I would consider doing for sure. And honestly, before I even did that, Todd, I wanted to make sure that I didn't fall flat on my face in front of all these awesome people that I've watched for all this time, and volunteer to make.
Well, there's the link. I just put the link in the comments right there.
Yep.
I had it somewhere else, but I lost it.
I just subbed.
You now have 37 subscribers.
I'm worried about where my pond moss will suffice to replace the seaweed or not in the fondant.
Just put spinach in there.
That might work.
Don't forget bananas. Put bananas in there.
Yeah.
It's almost, when that temperature comes down, you can play with those additive ingredients to suit whatever need be. I mean, you don't even need to do anything. I mean, it's just vinegar, sugar, and water. You can literally just turn that into fondant and give that straight to them. I guarantee they'd tear it up just the same. You don't have to add Hive Alive, or you wouldn't have to add Apis or do anything fancy. You could literally just make sugar, and they're gonna go to town on it. I guarantee.
It ain't done. Hey, Matt, no pressure, but now, you kind of got thrown under the bus here a little bit, but I will say you've definitely done your homework. When you and I had the conversation, I'm like, yeah, Matt just didn't concoct this in 5 minutes and start throwing it down on his wife's kitchen and making a mess. I'm like, I knew you had done some homework on this. And I'm
Yeah.
like, when you had actually said that, I told you before, and JW and I had the same conversation. I'm like, I despise making candy boards. I'm like, I've almost threatened my boys to make this stuff for me.
I tried one time last year, and again, this is my second winter, so I don't have a whole lot of experience, right? But I tried one time last year, and they're still in the freezer because those things were hard as a brick. I never did. I just ended up buying High Life fondant. I went to Isabee's and I got a box of fondant, and that was I only had 8 hives, so I didn't have to worry about more than one.
Yeah, it's easy, right?
Yeah,
you
this
just
year
cut a hole, plop it down, and walk away.
Yeah. And this year, with the amount of hives we've grown to, it's not possible for me monetarily. I'm not going to do it. So that's the motivator there, because I was able to maybe see if I could save money, and that can be a great motivator.
Hey, definitely. So many of the little things that I've taken on in our operation have been motivated by saving time or money. You know.
Yeah.
So absolutely.
Just like like those gold nuggets that I talk about on those videos, and I've heard Brian at Flower Street Farms talk about the gold nugget of this, and it's like, that made sense. But like Tyler Holden Homestead, he talked about on one of his videos that I saw, it was like the time, and the time is the one thing you can never get back. I can always work more and make money. I can always make more money sometime, but I'll never get that time back. So that really made me think of how I need to be more intentional with everything that I'm doing, whether it be 1 hive or 4 hives, or, in my case, in low 70s or what have you. I'm just doing that same thing 70 times. I'm not trying to do 70 different things, or I'd never be able to make it work.
Exactly. 1 hive, 70 times.
Yeah.
So,
I've always told my family I hate racing the clock.
Yeah.
If you get behind, the best thing to do is go to the other end and work backwards.
Yep. Yep. You're right.
That's right. Yeah. Hey, Mark Miller has this comment up here, says, Matt, my hat's off to you for making 80 hives your second year. Way to go, Matt. I would, if somebody came to me and says, hey, Tom, I want to go from 8 to 80, I'd be like, don't do it. But if I'm going to be honest here right now, and again, I just want to brag on Matt for a minute. Him and I have had some pretty in-depth conversations, and Matt is no slouch, and he is no idiot. If anybody can make this happen with great success, I have all the confidence in the world in you, man. I really do. I mean, the in-depth conversations that you and I have had here on stuff, and I'm like, yeah, he's not going into this, asking amateur hour questions. This was like something that was really, there was a thought out process here in what he's doing and stuff. So you don't talk like a second year beekeeper, man. I can tell you that for a fact.
I appreciate that, and that's all kudos to Brad, Todd, JW, Joey, Charlie. I'm gonna leave people out because they're not on the stream or whatever. Ricky, Heyman, Bob Benny. Endless. Kent Williams. There's so many people that just by watching, maybe COVID helped create some of that. But there's so much valuable information if you know how to sift it. If you have the right net, you can pull out some information through the YouTube channels and watching the right people, I guess I should say. And, I hate to say it, but within about 10 seconds, or at least I do, whether it be the Colgate white bee suit the guy has on, or whatever,
or none at all.
I might just put this one and go to another.
The more you learn, the more you know who not to watch too.
That's right.
Yeah. You start to discriminate the wheat from the chaff. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a danger for a new person. Oh, I want to do bees. Let's do YouTube. And you get not only a lot of kind of not great information or terrible information, but you get all kinds of stuff. And you don't know, this guy says this thing and this guy says that thing, and maybe that person is right, but you you take the other advice instead because you don't really know and you don't have any frame of reference. So
Yeah,
it's a minefield out there.
And
Well,
Brad, sometimes it can be a matter of the way you want to manage your hives, right? There's a difference
Absolutely.
of an answer.
yeah.
Absolutely. You
Well,
were
I think
you were
sometimes
saying
too-
earlier that sometimes it comes down to, doing it this way because of expense. Almost all of my management decisions are made because of me, not because of the bees. There's 100 ways to do things with the bees.
Right.
I have to decide how I can manage, 100, 150, 200 colonies, perhaps all by myself as a fat old guy. It's tough.
Oh, yeah.
I think sometimes too, especially new beekeepers, they'll come looking for YouTube information on how to keep bees, not realizing how localized beekeeping is. And they're trying to get advice from Brad when they live down by Joey.
I get
And
those emails all the time.
And the advice is
No.
great, but guess what? It's not going to work. Brad's way of doing things isn't going to work down by Joey,
Yep.
And they don't realize that, how localized beekeeping really is.
I mean, to speak to that, one of my first mentors was Ian, and he didn't know he was because he used to, before he did YouTube, he had a written daily blog that he would write into every day, and I found that when I was doing my research online, and I picked up his daily blog and I'd read it every day. Now he's 150, 200 kilometers southwest of me, right? So 150 miles. And in the spring, that worked out perfectly because his season was about a week ahead of mine. So I could read his blog one day and realize, I got to do this. I'd have time to go to the bee store, get the stuff I need to do that, and come home and figure out how to do it. So you don't even have to be very far apart, and you're on a different locale schedule. So that's probably one of the most important things to keep in mind is local.
Yeah.
Local.
Yep. And our getting started into bees actually happened. I'm a contractor by trade, but we do a lot of custom kitchens and bathrooms, a lot of tile work, really, and a lot of showers. And I was remodeling a bathroom actually in the third floor of a fest hall actually that Anheuser-Busch built originally in the areas around St. Louis as a dance and a beer hall for his employees. So they'd come and they'd have a band play. And anyway, on the third floor of this, I was tiling the ceiling of the shower, and I had to take the ceiling out to put in my hardy board and waterproof that for tile. And here's
surprise
called bee colony. So
there was your first bee colony.
The year before, I had my wife. I asked for a beehive for Christmas, so off Amazon, I got the cheapest beehive setup, complete setup with everything, in a box type thing, and it sat there in the garage for over a year, and then all of a sudden I had a need for it. So that's how I met my mentor. She actually is a broker in real estate, so she sold a house to a guy who runs a honey business in Arnold, and I guess the rest is history from there. So
let me guess. You bought the beehive. It sat for quite some time. Then you got the bees, and you put it in the beehive, and immediately realized I don't have enough equipment.
Absolutely.
Right.
the first thing, I didn't have a feeder.
Then he was running to Isabee's. He was running to Isabee's and loading up.
Yep. And
Jane, help me.
Jane and Scott, and now I have my own parking spot right out front.
I know. I think Tom and I have a cat in the back of that building somewhere.
It's actually really cool. And going into our second year, actually, she has an observation hive in her store, and that's actually one of our Sandy Valley mutts. I mean, our queen is actually on display in that sense in her store. So I sold her a nuke downsizing the yard. I sold a couple late nukes in September, and she was one of the buyers for it. So that's where they reside right now. So it's kind of cool to see them.
Yeah.
Jane's new beekeeper class is really good. We actually took that when we were first starting.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I have a lot of respect for Jane and Scott.
I think it's online, so yeah, anybody can do that one.
Now, Matt, don't go take that class, okay? You're well beyond that, so don't do that.
It's kind of like the thing, doing that cutout and rubber banding those bees into the frames and watching them attach and build up those however many frames it was in that 10 frame box initially, I got to learn kind of like a package setup, newer, kind of from the the start and observing them versus a nucleus hive. I feel like a beginning beekeeper is getting a nuke is not doing them a service. They're opening the book to chapter 3 and they've skipped the whole introduction. They've skipped chapter 1 and 2. They don't even know what that's about really, because they've all of a sudden they have brood and they're combating swarming right off the bat if the nuke's powerful enough. So I feel like a new beekeeper, either a cutout, which isn't something you can really plan for, but the package what I would recommend someone starting with, just to be able to see that magical process from the very beginning, and just paying attention, being very aware of everything. I mean, every hive, it seems like, is trying to tell you something. They're screaming something at you, and whether or not you're hearing it or seeing the forest from the trees or trees from the forest, so just trying to have fun, just trying to have fun and learn. I just want to be more like Tom and JW.
I'm trying to be like this guy over here.
We all want to be.
Good God, boys. Thank you.
I've said this a few times on several lives and two people just talking. Before I retired, I always said when I retire, I want to run 100 hives. I didn't know what I was talking about. Before I retired, I got to 45 one year, and I realized then I didn't want that many. And for about the last 5-6 years now, maybe 7, I've been trying to get back down to 20.
I want to get back down. That's an addiction, is when you talk like that. trying to get down to a pack a day. That kind of thing.
You have a problem, Joey. I would go get professional help. Go talk to a counselor or something about this.
When I started, I met a lot of people, and one of the first people I met was Phil the Bee Man. You see him on his YouTube channel, and he was helpful. He asked me a bunch of things, and we talked about all kinds of stuff. But one of the things he asked me, says, "Well, how many colonies do you want to run?" And I said, "I don't know. I don't know how many I can manage." And I said, I'm going to run 100 and see what that's like. And he said, well, I'll tell you, 100 colonies is about the worst number. And I'll tell you why. He said, because it's a lot, but you're not making enough money to buy any of the toys to help you, right? 100 colonies is not going to buy you an easy loader, right? And a truck and stuff like that. So, when Joey says, well, 100 was a lot, and it is a lot, but when you start putting the investment into, the toys, the forklifts and the easy loaders and the trucks and things like that, and the cow and extracting line and all that kind of stuff, then that makes that a little easier. But now you've got that big investment in it, so now you got to run 200.
Yeah, you know what? That makes sense. My oldest son is a pharmacist, and he has his own store. And there was a store came up, another pharmacist was going to retire, and that store came up for sale. And the company that actually keeps him supplied, they also helped him set up when he went into business for himself. And he mentioned to him about getting a second store, and they said, don't do it. Said either have your 1 or 3. Do not try to run 2. And he said, why is that? They said 2 will work you to death. 3, you have enough employees throughout all 3 stores to cover anybody that can't come in one day. And that kind of clicked with me. It made sense,
Yeah.
And that's something to remember. Sometimes when you get to a certain point, it's enough to work you to death, but also it's not enough for the income. Money wise, it's the same thing. You need more to cover that budget.
Well, I think what you're describing there basically is the difference between a job that you own and an actual business.
Yeah.
You know, a business will, you know, you have to look at it like this, I guess. I've heard some guys talk, and the one thing they say is, can you leave for a couple weeks or a month and your company still run? Because if not, you have a job. If it can, you have a business. So, and I realize even though you may be self-employed, you know, I'll be the first one to say I have a job. You know, I cannot run away for a month and the whole thing still run itself. There's so many aspects of it that I still deal with on a daily basis that
Yeah.
I probably could do some stuff to a degree, but it would slow down the growth process for me, you know, if that makes sense. So,
Well,
there's definitely
the attention to detail would get lost.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
In any small business, that attention to detail is how you have the business. So is the time you lose that, you know, it's going downhill quick.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
You'd
if
have
I
to
wanted to make a business out of it, I'd probably need a couple of hundred hives at least, and then I'd have to hire somebody that worked with me.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
so
Well, then
I'm
there's a
by my-
whole new layer of complexity,
Yeah.
stress.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, it would be a dream come true to have a huge operation, but at the same time, I don't want to try to double up what I've grown this year. I want to stick right about that 100 or pretty close to it, and I want those to be the healthiest 100 hives that you know what I mean, and just manage those extremely well, and not try to focus on growing out of control or anything, because I guess none of us know really what's even going to come springtime. We have hopes and ambitions, and we're working hard to have little to no losses during the winter time, but it's, we'll just take it one day at a time and try and give it give them us.
So I'm compelled to share, and you stop me if you've heard this story, but the story of the businessman that was in Mexico, and he was at the shore, and a Mexican local come in with a boat with some fish. Is that sounded like a familiar story? And the businessman asks the fisherman, he says, how's fishing? He says, well, good. I got enough. And he said, how many did you get? And he showed him a few fish. He says, was that all the fish you could catch? No. He said, I could have filled this boat if I wanted to, but I didn't need to.
Mm-hmm.
So he said, well, what are you going to do? He said, well, I'm going to take my fish and I'm going to go feed my family. And then he said, what are you going to do with the rest of your day? He says, I'm going to sit on the porch and play with my grandchildren. And the businessman, he said, man, you fill that boat, you could go and sell that at the market, make all kinds of money, and buy another boat and hire a crew for the other boat, and they could fill that boat. And then you could have, in short time, you could have a whole fleet of boats. And you have a whole fleet of boats, and then you'd own the factory processing the fish and sell the fish. And he says, you do that for 40 years, you can retire and sit on the porch and play with your grandchildren.
Yep.
And they'd be grown up and have grandchildren of their own at that time.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it would be your great grandchildren.
Right. Yeah,
So,
I can see how.
Just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's our largest yard is 45 colonies in it, and that's what I'm able to get to in an afternoon after work, 5 o'clock to 7. In summertime, the sun's up a little bit later than it is now, for sure. But
I bet you don't have a camera with you when you're doing 40.
It's my phone in my back pocket, but yeah, it's not out. Yeah, no, I still haven't figured out the fact that YouTube actually has an edit option, like sort of
YouTube's editor is awful. Don't even go there.
Any of my videos are just what I can record in one click without making a mistake or sounding too harebrained, so real primitive, I guess I'd call it.
Rough cut.
Yeah, rough cut.
Yeah, that's what my vlog was supposed to be. But then I got fussy with it and started
Right.
editing.
Yeah.
And it's turned into this monster that's consuming me.
Right. But teaching so many people, Brad, I got to say, I mean, you come off as extremely intellectual and
Deceiving.
very intentional with everything that you do, whether it be time saving techniques or just very well thought out, you know, very a very
I
good
appreciate
example,
that feedback. It's
very good
appreciated very much.
for people
Yeah.
learning and having someone to look up to and watch. And all of you, you know, all of you for that matter, Joey as well, JW,
I'm
Todd.
mostly just looking for somebody to talk to while I'm working all by myself all the time.
Yeah, I know that feeling.
'Cause I'd be talking to myself, and then I might be, you know, in that long white coat.
That would just be you asking expert advice, right?
Yeah.
Surely you jest.
Yeah. Well, you got to wear it backwards now, JW. That's the style. You got to wear it completely backwards.
Yeah.
Hey, you know, for some of those people that are just maybe they have a YouTube channel, but they're not really doing much with it. You know, to be honest with you, Greg Burns is the one that talked me into doing it. So he says, you know, look out, work outside of your box type thing. And so I started doing it. It was outside my comfort zone, but all I had was my iPhone. But I stumbled on an app called VN, V as in vinegar. And it's, you just throw your videos in there from your phone. You load the, you know, download the app on your phone, and you do everything on there. It's got everything on it. And I think you get 95 free ones before you even have to start paying for anything.
Oh, okay.
It's really simple to use. The only problem is if you have big fingers, you got to be a little more accurate with your finger pointing.
Oh yeah, I text like a grandpa with my thumbs right now, so it's I see what you're saying, yeah.
But yeah, this thing, it's great. You can put music on your videos. I make shorts sometimes, and I just I find some audio to do it.
So if we're sharing our editors, I'll guarantee you nobody uses the editor I use, because I'm so old and remember computers were far enough back that I use a program that was included with Windows for decades, but it hasn't been for a long time. So you have to kind of go search for it, but it's out there. It's called Movie Maker.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's the basics. It is the basics, but it can do 99% of what you want to do. What I can't do that I haven't found with Movie Maker is if I want to do a voiceover, I need to record a WAV file. I can't play just the audio from a video segment on that, but that's really the only limitation that I've found of that program. So yeah, there's lots of options out there.
Yeah.
Lots of free editors and whatnot.
Yeah.
Bruce from Bruce's Bees, he used iMovie for probably 5 years, 6 years. Right there on his phone.
That's what I used when I was posting videos to Facebook, is that iMovie or whatever it was on the computer. But
and it's gotten a little easier to use. It used to be kind of hard.
But we've been, so when you first, like, it's intimidating because like people would tell us to make videos like, why don't you guys post stuff on your YouTube channel? Like, because like it's really intimidating because you've got these great videos out there, and then you don't want to post something and it's trash. So it's really intimidating to like put yourself out there like that to begin with.
I'm a pretty shy person until I'm not. You know, I think I'm funny and I'm kind of a jokester, you know, and always have been. So I would, like, for instance, like I would never get out on the dance floor at a dance. You know, I would never, you know, put myself out there like that. And so I'm surprised I even, you know, I downloaded StreamYard on my phone probably 6 months ago, and tonight was the first time I ever really had gumption to get on here. I've wanted to, you know. And,
Good, because Tom
So-
peer pressured you and called you
yeah,
out.
So, Matt, you're going.
I had to rig up a charger, so I didn't.
Matt,
Fall
you're going down the same road I went. You know, I watched in the beginning. I watched Stream Team, you know, every Wednesday, and I'd known Greg Burns prior to that, and like I said, he talked me into it, and I'm like, and then you know, I finally jumped in and started filming off my phone. But you never see my face. You hardly see my face, and even today.
Mhm.
Every once in a while I'll do it, but what really, really got me over the hump was jumping on a live. I was scared to death first time I did. It was on one of Bob's lives. No. The very first one was Charlie on a Friday night.
Charlie's marathon.
Huh?
Was it Charlie's marathon? His 5-hour live.
No, it was a little bit after that, but man, I was shaking in my boots, literally.
Oh,
I mean, I was like, I couldn't talk, and so after I kind of, you know, got used to that situation, then, you know, the videos just started. You know,
I was nervous Nelly getting on this live here tonight.
Yeah.
I was talking like that. I just got pulled over by a policeman. Like,
Yeah.
like nothing to hide. Like, you know, it's
All
like,
good.
you
Well,
know,
Matt, when you get ready to do your own lives, I'll exchange you every other Saturday.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, I don't know about it. I don't know. That's Tom Melissa will be well ahead of me on that.
Oh, man.
I don't
You'll
think
get
so.
used to it really fast. You'll get used to it really fast.
Yeah.
I don't mind being on other people's lives. I don't think either one of us want to host our own, because then you're like committed. You
That
have to
is-
like show
yeah.
up that day every week to
Yeah.
host that live.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And you know, it's like, oh man.
There's
Well,
only
and
so
that really wasn't part of what we wanted to do as our operation was. Our goal was not to go out there and make all kinds of educational videos. It was more maybe a journey, or I can show something that I've done that
Yep.
may help somebody, you know,
Yes.
like the feed tank setup or something, you know.
Yep.
It wasn't about, you know, and I'm going to quote the old Mike Berry. This wasn't a how-to video on something, because again, I understand that this video could go out to everybody from different countries to wherever else that might look. And just because that's the way I keep bees doesn't mean that's the way somebody else should be keeping bees. Right.
right.
So, you know, and yeah, so that was never really our goals with it. And even doing the YouTube lives and such, I love getting on here and just chatting with everybody and just kind of debating things back and forth a little bit. But
I'm not going to talk
that
to
was,
him this much.
that was never really our goal and intent to do that. And, you know, the only reason we even started, Matt, was when Ricky had said, hey, I'm thinking about doing some lives. Would you join me? And I'm like, not really sure why you'd want that, but I'm like, I'm like, maybe. And I said, let me talk to Melissa about it. And then I said, are you looking for somebody every week or what? And he's like, yeah, if you want to. And I'm like, well, I'll come help you once and we'll see what that looks like, you know? And the same thing, you're just like, yeah, I don't really know. I just started being myself, you know.
Well, the
what
first-
you see is what you get.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
first time we were on was with Greg, with Stream Team, promoting the workshop.
Oh, okay, that's right. It was with Greg. I forgot about that. It was the one-time deal with Greg.
The old
And
Mike.
you know what? I misquoted myself, and Brian corrected me. Yeah, I used to be on the Fat Bee Man chats, but that was kind of different in itself, because you just kind of sat there and listened to everybody, you know. And someone would ask Don a question, he'd answer. You know, it was nothing knocking him at all, but these are more interactive than the style that he had going on.
Mhm.
It's more of a
That's
Q&A.
been a long time ago then, Todd.
Yeah, I completely forgot about that. Yeah. And that's how I met Greg.
I probably saw you on there and didn't even realize it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You know, I was on there right there at the beginning of COVID. I remember I had my, I had my, whatchamacallit, what's his name? Oh, shoot. The guy's mustache. It went all the way down. The actor, I can't remember his name. He's on those commercials now with Gronkowski. He had the white one. He was on the movie Roadhouse. Patrick.
Oh, Hulk Hogan?
No.
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 Oh my gosh, what's his name?
Anyway, he was on the movie, but I had this massive.
Sam Elliott.
Sam
Sam
Elliott.
Elliott.
Sam Elliott.
Sam Elliott, yeah.
Sam
I had this
Elliott.
massive Sam Elliott going on. And the reason why I got away with it is because if I went out in public or got on work at Zoom, I just put a mask on. No one would see it. But boy, it was uncomfortable, you know, because it was pushing up against the mask. It was humongous.
Wow.
And one of the videos on Don's one of Don's videos, I was wearing it. But right after that, I shaved it.
Heck, I was only in third
It
grade
took
when all that
weeks.
happened, Todd.
It took months. Hey, I might try it again though.
There you go.
But the one thing I didn't like about it was that, let's say I had it on right now. Well, tomorrow at some point I could taste the coffee that I had in the morning, or whatever else, right? So yeah, it was humongous though. It was
Hey,
crazy.
start growing it out now, and then we'll see you at Navi.
Yeah,
Now it takes 6 months for me to get that real bushy thing going again. I'm not
Hulk Hogan
not going
mustache.
through that. That's too much. That's too much work. Yeah.
Yeah.
Matt, don't feel bad. I never edited. I don't put out many videos, and I put out no how-to videos, but I never edit anything. What you see is what you get. I don't intend to ever edit anything.
yeah, and I think that's, you know, I feel like that's the way Ian kind of does his videos, and I'm thinking, you know, edit some of those too. But some of those earlier ones seem to be really just kind of from his cell phone and kind of just action packed, and it was just like short and sweet. And Canadian Beekeepers blog.
Well,
and
you've heard his story. Haven't you heard his story about like how he started doing that, why he started? It was kind of, he transitioned from his daily written blog and he started doing the YouTube thing. But he didn't start doing YouTube to start doing YouTube. He wanted to get more comfortable speaking, and so that he could do more public speaking, and that's why he started. And then it just took off on him, and he lit a match and a wildfire started. So yeah, so you can see his progression from those early videos, and then over the next year or two, he actually took some Toastmaster classes, etc. So he's gotten really good at speaking.
Nobody else has a style like he does in his vlogging, and he can just end it, and that's it. That's the end.
Yeah,
Irish goodbye.
Nobody else can do that.
Yeah.
You know, I'm looking up.
And that should be, sorry, Todd, I just want to throw in, that should be, you know, you guys that are saying, you know, I think Matt, you said it, and Tom, I think kind of said this, that, oh, well, I don't want to do a YouTube video because there's all kinds of really great and smooth YouTube videos. Well, look at Ian's YouTube videos. They're just rough cut. They're just like, boom, boom, boom. This is what's going on. And they're still awesome videos, right? He sometimes he spends a lot of time editing something, but often he doesn't. It's just clip it together on the iPhone.
You know, to add to Ian, and I told him this too, and he was like, really? And then he had to think about it. The best video, in my opinion, that he made was from 4 years ago, and it's called the 2019 Spring Rewind, Brood Nest Management. And it's 2 hours of nuggets. I mean, there's so many nuggets in there, you wouldn't believe it.
Yeah.
And it was a daily progression throughout the spring, but it was spot on everything. It was perfect.
Yeah, it's really nice to be able to watch those videos and see and pick up those things. And when you digest it and you're kind of thinking about it later, and you're like, you know what? That makes sense in so many ways, you know, and kind of relate it to your situation or what you have going on. And it's just been an invaluable tool, and really one of the only ways that I've just grown whatever a little amount that I've done this year in my short stint at this. So I just having a ton of fun, you know, but it's it's a journey, you know. So
It is.
And your audience will find
mhm.
that's what I want to put in there. You know, I think sometimes people do YouTube for different reasons. And I've said a few times on my channel, I'm not a YouTuber.
Mhm.
I'm not a YouTuber. I'm a beekeeper.
Yeah.
Right. I do YouTube, but that's it. Because I don't want to serve that master. I don't want to try and figure out the algorithm. I don't want to try and figure out the audience. I don't want to try and, you know, go down that hole. And that's fine if that's what a person wants to do, but that's a really tough road. But it can pay off.
Mhm.
But that's your job.
Mhm.
And that's not my job. My job is bugs in a box, right?
Mhm.
And so for me, because I didn't spend any time, I spent zero time and effort trying to find an audience. It took a while. It took a while,
Mhm.
but I'm starting to get an audience because they're finding me. And, you know, it's a great match because I'm not trying to be anything.
Mhm.
I'm just turning the camera on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. I'm
And
not
then-
trying to figure out what does the audience want. People say, like, Matt, you said all kinds of kind things here a few minutes ago, and people say that, wow, you know, I really like, and I'm thinking, okay, it's like, I'm glad you like it because I'm not really trying
Mhm.
to do anything in particular.
But I think in
Having
that
a conversation.
humility, much like Tom and everyone here, I sense has a lot of humility. But in that humility is that magic. You know, that's it's just all part of it. You know, so
I want to talk to
what
you like you're standing there, we're hanging out in the bee yard.
Mhm.
Right. And maybe you're a newer beekeeper and you're looking for those management nuggets or something like that. That's all I want to do.
Mhm.
You know?
Yep.
Mhm.
And
It's just it's a real like it or leave it approach, you know. It's like this
Yeah.
is who I am. You
Yeah.
like it or leave it, you know.
Yeah.
No big
And
deal.
I also find that I used to teach computer courses years ago, and I find that if you can get to a point where you can explain something to somebody and make them understand, that takes a lot of understanding yourself.
Mhm.
You know, because if you find you can't explain it, that's probably because you don't understand it well enough. And it helps me to explain it to, sorry, I got to give this guy attention again. You knew it was going to happen. Yeah, to, you know, get to that point where I can explain it and practicing explaining it, putting it into words. I'm doing it for me, right?
Yeah, and that's it. Kind of, you know, beekeeping kind of in wrapping it in a whole. If I had to describe what beekeeping means to me, it is enabled me. It has made me more of who I already am. So it's just somehow emphasized the fact that I could care intimately about something that to some people just bugs in a box, but to me it's magic, you know, and it's literally Pandora's box or Mother Nature in a box, however you want to. I mean, that right there is an absolutely you know, powerful thing in so many ways. You can't even really put it into one category. You know, it's literally there's a higher power at work. You know, a creator. Something has made, you know, just it's just, you know, you pale in comparison trying to even put it into words, but in making more of who you already are coming out. Um, I feel is just kind of led me to, I guess, even to this live tonight. This morning, I had no idea that I was going to be on Joey Rawls live. Here I am, you know. So,
I had no idea I was going to be on Tuesday night.
you know,
Neither did
I
Joey.
was hoping someone, you know, start to pick if I don't get a notification on a live or something.
Hey Matt, there ain't a person on this live right now that had intentions to be here. What, 3 hours ago?
Right.
Whatever that be.
Oh,
That's one
Magic
intention.
happens, you know. That's how it goes.
Well, I'll suggest one thing, Matt. If you've accomplished anything, if you went from 8 to 80 in this year's time,
Mm-hmm.
if nothing else, you've you must improve your carpentry skills because you have to do a lot of it.
I can tell you, I know how to make a bottom board and migratory top, and yeah, with that sawmill we have on where our main yard is, we have a lot of red cedars. So I've cut down a lot of red cedar, and you know, I haven't made any boxes out of them, but I'll make some screen boards and migratory covers in about 10 minutes. I can tell you that. I'll just set up an assembly line and go to town.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Brian at Flower Street says, Matt, where are you going with your business?
You know, slowly but surely. I'm not really sure to what level I want to take it, other than I know hive count next year. I want to hover somewhere around 100. I have right now we have 4 yards. One's at a vineyard, one's at a nature preserve, one's at our main yard that's at our property, and then another one's just at a little blackberry patch. It just got 3 hives for an old farmer, one of my best friends named James. He's an 85-year-old farmer, and you know, I got to watch how the hours tick away from me when I get around talking with James, because the time will just fly by. I hear stories that I never would have heard if I had not been there talking with James, you know. So just one of those relationships.
Matt, I have one of those guys too.
Yeah, see,
that's my James right there.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what? There's so much that you and I can learn from these guys. It's ridiculous.
Unlimited.
Oh, yeah.
I'm always trying to learn.
Well, you know, there's always something for somebody to learn.
Yes. Yeah.
And I figured that out when, I don't know, it was somebody that's followed my YouTube, and I don't consider myself a teacher at all, but I just took my smoker with the little hook and hung it on the box. And they said, they made the comment that they never realized that's what that little hook on that smoker.
I've had that happen. They look at you like you just cured cancer or something.
Yeah. I mean, nobody ever told them, so they probably just didn't even think about it.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Well, hey, Bob Benny says you got to keep it between your knees, Joey.
Yeah, I know.
He says.
Yeah,
I've done that too.
Been a ton of fun, I tell you that. You know,
You must have helped taught some of his help pretty well, because some of the things that some of his helpers do on those videos, it's kind of amazing that they can manipulate those hives as fast as efficiently. It's what they do. I can tell you that.
It's funny because I've been practicing trying to pick up queens, and I've picked up drones, and this time of year, you know, when I was saying how they kind of land on you, and like, oh, okay, well, you're a little docile. I'm gonna try to pick you up, and you know, you just, you know, and these can sting you, right? They're just worker bees, so kind of like gently putting them back at the entrance, you know, and be like, and you see them reach around and be like, oh, that was close, you know.
Yeah.
You know,
I don't know if I'll ever graduate.
I can catch that queen. I can grab her and hold her just like she needs to be held. But when I get ready to put that pin here, the closer I get, the more that pin moves. It just goes to doing that, and I don't know why, because I can do it right here, right now.
It's a Ouija pin.
For some reason, it starts moving. And
in deer hunting, I think they call that buck fever.
Yeah, that's probably it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got a lot. You got a lot in that little fingertip right there.
You need to do it like Selena does. You hold the queen with one hand, and you dig the pen out of your pocket with the other hand. And you get the pen and you pull that cap off of that pen and hold it in your hand. Mark the queen, and then put the cap back on the pen, and you're not covered in ink.
Yeah,
when you're done. So that's like marking the queen's nothing.
Yeah.
It's the pen. The pen is the
pen trick. The pen trick is the amazing part.
So I've never been able to catch a queen and hold her and mark her. It's like I'm not coordinated enough. Like I can't do and I'm left-handed, so I think that has something to do with it, because I want to grab her and with the same hand that I need to like use my pen with.
You do.
But so what I usually do is I find her on the frame and just kind of put my finger on her, hold her down, and dab her real quick and move on with my life.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. But you're right. I'm right-handed, so I pick them up with my right hand,
Mhm.
and then I put them on
Transfer.
my left index finger and hold them
Yeah.
by the legs on one
That's
side.
the way I do it.
Mhm.
That's the first one I saw to demonstrate that was Michael Palmer. He showed that. Just set her on your finger, and she'll just hang on to your finger. Hold the legs on one side. Be gentle. You'll rip a leg off, and make sure you don't get just one, because she'll spin
Yeah.
around and rip her leg off. You get just one.
Well, I've
And
got
then-
one of these. I don't know if but I've
Yeah.
never used it. I've
Mhm.
never used it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what
we-
James uses. He says it works great.
Yeah,
I use mine quite a bit. I've got one, Joey.
Hey, Joey, the best one of those is actually that one you held up there is the full plastic one. If you get the one with the little wooden round top, the
Yeah.
real nails that go through it, and it's got the
It's like fishing line or something, isn't
yeah,
it?
that goes back and forth between it. That is better, and that's how we kind of started on this, was using one of those. And then I decided I wanted to tell myself, I'm like, I
Right.
want to be able to catch.
What's up, brother?
And it does make a difference if you don't have 2 or 3 hives. You're not worried about killing one of the 3, and you
Yeah.
have 100. You're like, if one goes away, no big deal, right?
Right.
So here you are, then.
What's up, Brian?
All right, I got wax going, so I can't stay long. However, I can't do it with the queen, but I can do the pen. Okay.
Oh,
Let me see if I can get it here. Okay, here's the trick. First of all, don't hold it the way you normally hold it. You hold it point down. Yeah, there you go. Thank you. Okay, now you have your bottom fingers. You're holding the cap. Your top fingers and your thumb are pulling the pen out and flipping it around. And then
We're
you
just
put it in
we're
the
showing
cap.
off at this point.
Then from there,
oh, hey,
I'd be covered
ninja,
Fancy.
ninja.
You deal cards at the local casino too,
What
right?
a ninja!
now all I need to do is be able to hold the queen. But I got the
Can you
pen
make-
part.
Can you make a video on that? Post it
I
on
just
your-
did. I just did.
Post it on your
Just
YouTube
did.
channel.
Yeah.
No, there's
Pull
a
a little clip out, but there you go. There's my nugget for the night. First of all, a lot of great nuggets. Matt, thanks for coming on tonight. I have to go back and listen again to that fondant stuff. I'm gonna try it myself. That's great stuff. Thanks for coming on and doing that. I
Yeah.
definitely have to go though, because I have wax going on in the honey house. But
Hey,
I did
Brian,
want to add that since that came on. I got that part down, but
Holder
now I
of
got to get
pens.
the queen. All right, have a good night,
Hey,
everyone.
Brian,
I'm
hold
gonna-
on, Brian,
Thank
hold
you,
on.
Brian.
Before
Yeah.
you leave,
Yeah. Yes, sir.
sir,
Yeah, there you go.
you are the pen ninja. Change your name.
A pin job.
I did. Holder of pens.
I love it.
Well, there we
Have a
go.
good night,
See you,
folks.
man.
Hey,
Right.
Brian.
All right.
Hey, now if you watch some of Bob's old videos, Bob Benny's old videos,
Mhm.
he actually has the queen and the cap in the same hand.
Yeah.
Oh,
He lets it down. Then he'll pull the cap off, and
Right.
then he'll catch the queen or something like it. Or he's got the queen, then
Right.
he'll
Yeah,
grab
he'll
the
pick
cap.
the queen up
Yeah.
and then pull the cap
Oh.
off with kind of
Maybe when I've been
the
beekeeping
little
40
finger or
years, I
something.
can do that.
mhm.
yeah. But
Yeah.
that was cool when Selena, and she did it differently than Brian showed. But she pulled that cap off and kind of had it in her fingers, and then the pen. She didn't have the pen like you'd have a pen. She just kind of had the pen sticking out of her hand, and she just kind of on the queen, and
I would have it
really
all
neat.
over the queen doing that.
Yeah, me too.
Especially in the middle of summertime, when you first got to
when that-
wet the felt on it. And I usually at first I'll take it and I dab it down on the box and I push
Always.
in to re-liquefy that.
Yeah,
But I'll tell you what, my one mistake, and I'm not going to lie here, I painted a queen so much. I mean, there was 30% of that queen that was marked, including her eyeballs. And when I did, you know how quickly that paint dries? It's not like you're just going to take her over to the faucet and hose her off. No, that doesn't work. That was a permanent mistake. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I couldn't believe what I just did. And I'm like, I just killed that queen. And I set her back down in the frame, and I came back in that hive. 1 week later, she was still there. Another week, bye-bye. She was gone. They're like, yep, had enough of you. You can't see anything you're doing here. get out of the hive, right?
You run into the wall. You know.
Yeah.
I'd
She was
like
saying,
it noted.
it's dark in here anyway. Why do I need eyes?
That's right. Yeah.
I'd like it noted that I've never done that.
Oh gosh, here we go. Sorry, babe.
Never killed a queen. That's your job.
Hey,
Yeah.
the trick though is to use the color black. Like mark them with the black Sharpie and see if you mark them. Oh, no one gets it, huh?
I got
Yeah.
That's helpful, Todd.
Well, I thought you
That's
had
the
some
trick.
other type of information there. I'm like, well, I'm not really sure how well that'd work, but okay. I didn't want to be the one to call you out and be like, hey, Todd, how does that work? I mean, Brian did have a black
Very-
Sharpie, didn't he?
Very carefully.
Yeah.
You have to have good eyesight too.
Yeah. And like
Yeah, but-
Brad said, you have to have a firm grip on her. You can't just let her still be wiggly and try to mark her. You're going to make a mistake. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
They're usually pretty
And
good.
you know
though.
what? That's. Go ahead, Brad. Sorry.
No, I was just saying they're usually pretty good. You know, once you get watch that Michael Palmer one. You know, the one on Bob Benny where Selena marks, that's very useful how she does that. But also watch the Michael Palmer one. He takes a lot of time to explain what he's doing and what's going on. So that's really helpful. And one of the things that I've never heard anybody on a video say about how to do that is I've learned to be very deliberate when I pick that queen up, because if you start fussing with that queen, she is gone. She is either going to be running like crazy or she is going to fly away. So you can't touch her until you're ready to grab her.
That's right.
And that's what I was gonna say. You think you're nervous coming on like your first video or your first live? Try chasing a queen on a frame with your fingers, you know, and I mean you're like, am I doing it right? You know.
Yeah, you grab her too hard and she starts piping at you, like squealing, like, oh no.
Well, so I'll tell you a little story too. This year, you know, if you've been watching my channel, you kind of know what's been going on. So I decided last winter, you know, one of the little things that I'm going to learn this year is I'm going to learn how to pick up queens and mark them without any gadgets or anything. So one of the things that really helped me with that is I ended up with all of those zombie queens. I got a lot of culled queens from Ian, and so they were just supposed to, you know, produce a little brood, and then I was going to requeen them to get viable colonies. And so a lot of those queens sat in there for a month, and then they came out, and a lot of them got pinched. Well, there's nothing like practicing marking queens if you're going to pinch the queens. So that was awesome. I just go in that hive with full confidence, grab that queen, pull her out, mark her. Some of them got way too much ink on them, of course. But, you know, for the most part, it went okay. And I had that young fella named Jordan on, and he was doing it too. He was just stoked that he was marking queens.
That's great. I think, like you just said, Brad, we have all these different techniques and all these little tips and tricks to help the situation. But at the end of the day, it's confidence. That's what's making it happen.
Yeah.
You have confidence that you grab that queen up with no care in the world and making that just deliberate move. That's what it is.
Yeah. And you know, you're riding the right line if you're making mistakes, because if you're not failing, you're sandbagging. Right?
Guaranteed.
And you're not going to get anywhere sandbag. You're not going to learn anything, and you're not going to have any fun if you're sandbagging the whole time. So get in there, and when you start failing, then you're just about right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's.
I always told my crew, man, don't make mistakes, ain't doing anything.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
That basically sums up my whole year of beekeeping, whether it be setting up the cell builders and
failure,
losing all the crap to a virgin coming in. And I mean,
you're doing it right then.
You just paraphrased my whole second year.
Well, look at my last winter. I did last year. I gave it my all because all my bees died.
Yeah. I'm kind of following your footsteps this year, Brad.
Fail in a big way.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that. That's not a good thing. Excuse me.
It's one thing after another.
Todd, I know you had mentioned the ants, and I just want to throw this out there. This is neither here nor, you know, we can just immediately forget I even said it. But the what I had great success with this year, for all of my mating nukes that I would place along the tree line on the ground, and these are just 5-frame nukes with a jar feeder, a little pint jar feed. I would have immediately, just because it's on the forest floor, I'd have ants immediately. And what I do is I took it was Kurt Warner, I believe, in a Bob Binney video. He had essential oil, like camphor, eucalyptus, and oil on the shop towel. And he uses it for small hive beetle, I believe, and for kind of a soothing effect after, you know, getting bit from mites and what have you, kind of a soothing effect. But I noticed immediately, if I were to line that around my nuke box or put it in the 4 corners, that ants would not touch it. They would not cross that path.
Well, I'll
that
tell
one
you,
organic farm you're talking about.
Mine was
essential oil.
Yeah. My problem was myself getting in the way. So I moved some of my bees this past January because the weed barrier they were on was getting all ripped up by my boots when I walked back and forth. And it's probably like over 4 years old, I think. And I put that down. The only thing I put it down for is fire protection. You know, I'm walking out there with a smoker full of embers, and if I didn't have that barrier down there, it's just all weeds.
Gotcha.
So, and there's ranch homes around the area and stuff, and it would be nothing for it just to take off. So I lay the barrier down. Well, I moved the bees because I needed to replace the barrier. So I put the bees in another location, probably 20 feet away. I put the barrier down there. You see my bees are on pallets. And so what I had with that, Matt's battery ran out. But what I had was in the old location under each corner of the pallet was a little oil. I call it an oil trap, but it's a pet food ant barrier you can get on eBay. And the little reservoir in there holds maybe a third of a cup of oil, something like that. So I talked with the farm manager in this organic place, and I convinced him, and he knew from prior experiences with these ants that they will not cross an oil barrier. So I got some. He had a whole bunch of used oil from the tractors, and so I just started using that. When I moved the bees this year, I thought, hey, come on. I can handle these ants, no big deal. I just sprinkle some diatomaceous earth around it. Bruno, the manager, would be happy, and everybody's good. Well, that didn't last long because the wind blew it away. The ants found their way up when they finally woke up. They found their way up onto the pallets, and it was a circus after that. It was a dumpster fire after that. And so then what I did was I did my NASCAR pit crew guy imitation. I ran a floor jack under one side of the pallet, flipped it up, and I put those oil traps back on one side, let it down, ran around the other side, pumped it up. And I did that for all like 25 pallets. And then, but the damage was already done. And not only that, I had a cell builder that had 48 cells in it. I was ready to harvest it. I go back a few days later, harvest it. Every single one of them are gone, and there's a new queen in there. And then after that, and I work full time, so Saturday and Sunday are my main days. And after that, there he goes. After that, the weather didn't cooperate. I couldn't graft. It was this, it was that. It was just a whole big, huge mess. And it just compounded. So I had the ants, I had the virgin that killed everything. What else? Of course, mites. So it was just crazy. It was a crazy year. So what happened is I have a bunch of 2- and 3-year-olds out there right now, and they're starting to fail. So as they're failing, the hives are disappearing. The colonies are disappearing. So my empire has slowly shrunk down to a very, very manageable number, which I will not disclose. But at the peak, I was at 74 hives, 74, 72 hives this summer.
Okay.
But I'm nowhere near that now. But it was all because of that first piece I took out of the equation, which was the ant traps, and that just royally messed me up. Never again. Yeah.
That's one thing I've definitely learned this year is kind of like all the spokes to make the wheel go around. You can't take one of those out, or you're gonna if you stumble in the race, it's gonna hurt you. Whether it comes missing a mite treatment or what have you, it's just gonna be essentially gonna bite you. So I just really just tried to stay ahead of where I felt that they were gonna be, thinking what I should be seeing when I crack a hive, and upon that inspection, whether they're up to where I'm thinking they should be, or learning something. So it's been so much fun. I mean, it's
you always the saying, you make lemonade out of lemons, and that's what I've learned to do in this situation. I mean, I'm basically in a rebuilding process, but my biggest issue right now is I'm babysitting over 600 drawn combs. So, if I could get through to spring with relatively no damage on those combs, which I should, those bees can fill those up right away with orange honey. But how many colonies am I going to have? That's the thing, right? So, it's definitely easy. It's going to be easy for me to rebuild.
That's awesome. This year we started off with, I think I had, from those 4 dead outs, I mean, I would have had 35 to 40 usable combs maybe. And I was dead set on, we were drawing combs out in August and September just from feed. So we drew out about 1,250 acorn frames this year, to give an idea. So lots of huge growth just with comb drawing. I can't even imagine how much honey lost production, just in the drawing. But honey super I put on was foundation, so it's definitely building, growing pains as far as that part goes. But having foam, especially being treated, in the ways that you're treating them, and coming up with those ways, that's equally awesome, Sure.
I'd like to speak to that question.
A huge leap, as far as because drawing foundation is, until that has any comb on it, it may as well be a piece of trash in that hive.
I agree with that a lot.
So about the brackets for lifting pallets on the hive lifter, I'm not going to say right now, because I haven't got them yet, and it's very much a prototype, and I don't have his permission to make that public. I'm sure he wouldn't mind. He's a really great guy. But let me get those in. They should be here before long, and then I'll see how, if they need much tweaking, then I'll relate that back to him and say how it could be changed to work better. And then I'll be making that public on my channel as soon as I can, once I have them.
I am thinking of taking my 4-way pallets, Brad, and taking a chainsaw to them in the middle and making 2 ways. I'm thinking about it now. Not there yet, but I'm starting to contemplate.
Add a runner, I guess, eh?
It's got a runner in the middle. But you know what? So I could use a hive lifter.
Yep.
That's the main reason why. I still have the problem with I run U-clips, so I don't have any gaps between the boxes, but I could go sideways, front to back, instead of side to side.
That's the way I lift them.
Yeah. So we'll see.
Yeah. So this guy that's doing a little fabricating for me, he looks like he does really nice work. He really seems to know what he's doing. So I'm anxious to show that on my channel, but I want to do it all in good course, just to make sure we're not opening floodgates to a guy who doesn't want to do production work. You know, I don't know. I haven't talked to him about that, so we will see. We will see.
Yeah.
Sorry to kill the conversation. I just saw that
No,
question
no.
there.
No. I think JW's talked us all out.
Yeah. He's chatty Cathy over there.
Talking as much as Spanky up there.
Yeah. So I was going to throw something in earlier. We're all talking about YouTube and how we get started and everything. You were saying, Todd, who was encouraging you to do YouTube and whatnot, and I had done a couple of just basic, videos. Almost everybody does, and my channel was very small. It wasn't monetized or anything, and Stan Gore actually messaged me. I used to talk to him quite a bit on Messenger, etc. And he actually sent me a camera. He said, "I want you to do more YouTube, so I'm gonna send you a camera." He sent me an old Sony Handycam, and I did a lot of videos with that one until the tripod fell over and smashed.
Oh.
It was in the honey house too, so it went down on a cement floor. It worked for a little while after that, but it was in rough shape, and then it finally quit. But he got me going. He encouraged me. He said, "I want you to do more."
I remember the first. I told you this. The first video of yours that I watched was the 2 queen system.
Yeah, that's a real
You
popular one.
Yeah, you had it stacked up. What, it was 5 or 6 boxes high, and some of them.
And that was right around that same time. And that's kind of why I made that video, is because Stan said, "I want you to make more videos." And I think he might have named that system too. "You should make a video about that 2 queen system." So I did. And it's one of my most popular videos over time.
Oh, I thought it was the cat's meow. And I said, and then I clicked on the subscribe button, and there you go.
Gotcha.
I should have wrote down the number. If I'd known I would be talking to you, I'd be like, Brad, I'm like subscriber number 387. And
you would have been subscriber number 57 probably at that time.
Oh, man. Holy.
5,000 soon. 4,700 right now. So in a few months.
Yeah.
I'm up to 18, I think.
18. Keep at it, JW.
I haven't got much time left, I'm gonna have to get with the program.
That's what I can never figure out, why old people drive so slow. They don't have that much time.
Yeah. He doesn't drive slow. He doesn't drive slow.
It's like, you better hurry up. You don't have much time to get there.
Tom, I'm telling my wife Felicia in the background. I was like, "Nope, Tom threw me under the bus. I had to jump off."
Hey,
it kicked me off because she was calling me, and I declined her call.
Oh.
I couldn't get back. I was muted after I asked Todd a question. And this is when people have to cancel and come down back. So,
hey, listen, this is what friends do for each other. You throw me under the bus with your wife, okay? I'll take that fall.
It was
all you want, okay? Tell Alicia that it's my fault 100%. I drug you on here.
Peer pressure.
Just throw me under the bus.
Babe, it's Tom's fault, but he's just gonna blame JW. So
Yeah, what are you doing? What are you doing out there in that garage?
I'm hiding. That's what I'm hiding.
That's good stuff.
Yeah.
Been there, done that.
Yep.
Hey, Brian or Matt, you know what they say, man? Trial by fire, buddy. Here you are.
Yep. That's
So,
how I live life right there.
So this weekend you need to make that video of that fondant.
Yeah, I can do that.
Like this weekend.
I can do that. To be honest, I think I'm a firm believer that a lot of people could benefit from it, and
you betcha.
That's really one of the things someday that I want to ultimately do from beekeeping, kind of to get back to Brian's answer. is to really be able to, even though I'm just learning all of this, I really immediately want to give it back, because I feel like there is so many instances where this could almost help change people's life in positive ways, whether it be in some sort of therapy, whether it be some sort of just believing in something, just seeing something come to fruition that you started, and whether I just feel like, in this day and age, it's just missing from society as a whole. Everyone's just on their phones or, what have you. And it's just like, they're not really learning, whether it be a trade or, so just a way to apply yourself and really be proud of something, and give something your all, and don't be afraid of failing. I mean, it's, you can't be afraid to fail. I mean, that's like the last thing, I guess the winner isn't afraid to lose, type thing, or whatever that saying. I'm not saying it right, but so.
Yeah. Hey, Matt, you're 100% right. Just like Brad said a minute ago, if you're not failing, you're sandbagging.
Yeah.
If you're not if you're sandbagging, you're not succeeding. Yeah. So, I mean, there's so much truth to that. It sounds really odd when you put that to words. You're like, well, that doesn't make sense. But when you live that, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Failure. Another way to put that is, failure is not the opposite of success. It's actually part of it.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
It's a learning process.
Right.
Yeah. Yep.
You learn by our mistakes.
Yeah. I've told guys that worked for me before that, couldn't figure out what they wanted to do with their whole life and career and all that good stuff. And I'm like, look, guys, I'm like, you know what? Whatever you're doing here with me may not be it. And I'm okay with that, but I'm like, you need to find something that you like, you love, that you can't do without, and something that you can be successful at. Grab hold of it and go at it 110 miles an hour. I said, I don't care if it's a doctor or a trash man. Everybody, there's so much value in each one of them. You know what I mean? And I'm like, just go with it full steam ahead. You're going to trip, you're going to fall. Just get up and do it again. You don't fail until you quit.
You just have to look at that Venn diagram, right? There's 3 circles. There's things I enjoy, things I'm good at, and things that make money. Well, in my case, they don't intersect. Is my problem, right? There's no commonalities there.
I've got that, man. I hate making them honey boards. Thank you, Jesus.
It's like me building bee boxes. It's like, oh, I hate building bee boxes.
I asked JW to make me some. He said no. He was going to unfriend me if I asked him again.
JW, I'll help you make some fondant, but don't you worry.
Hey, JW, come in town. We're going to go over to Matt's house. We're going to make a wife. We're going to make a wife. We're going to make a wife out of you. We're going to make a mess out of his wife's kitchen. Okay.
Come on down. Let's go.
Yeah.
Todd, Melissa, y'all got some information you want to give about the?
I told you.
It's commercial time, JW.
Yeah. Yeah, we got to hurry for our 3 hours.
Yep.
All right.
13 here.
Let me see if I can.
You don't need to share screen yet.
I know. I was seeing how I can.
So Google Slides.
I'm trying to pull up a picture. Hold on 1 second.
We don't have 16 screens like Mr. Lee does, so you have to bear with us for a second. We don't have a dedicated room to the computer system.
I don't know. I don't know where it is.
Well, you want me to send?
Yeah, send it to. How do I share a picture on the screen? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Hit the present button.
Present, yeah.
And then wait for Joey to.
No, that goes to Lee. So present, and then what?
Joey has to approve it.
You have to select. Is it another window? You have to select a window. Share screen. And then it's a tab or a window.
And then if Joey knows you, he'll approve it.
Say please, and then Joey can.
I know.
You can draw it out on a piece of paper.
Y'all did it last week on something, didn't you?
Well, do I do the share screen thing and then pull up what I want?
I don't remember how y'all did that.
You probably can do that, but I don't think you have to.
Present, share screen, and then you have to choose. Is it a browser tab?
What tab to share?
You want to share
No, it's a thing.
a window?
So, okay.
So
No,
hit
that's not
window
window.
and then choose the window you want to share.
There you go, window.
Oh, I don't have anything open. I don't think that's it. I'm just going to tell you about it. We'll figure all that mess out next time. So, you all know we're having our conference in February. Well, we are now hosting a honey show with the American Honey Show Training Council, the same training council that judges the honey show at NABI.
Oh, wow.
They'll be judging our honey show. And we are also going to be doing the honey show judge training class the day before the workshop. So on Friday, that's a whole separate ticket. You have to come to our website and there'll be a link that you can sign up for that. So there'll be, if you want to learn how to be a honey judge or get more into honey shows, that's a great class. Tom and I took it at the Illinois State Conference a couple weeks ago. But then we're also having a honey show along with the workshop the following day on Saturday. So that's really exciting. And then I also want to let everybody know that there are, I think, like 15 tickets left for the dinner at NABI on that Wednesday night. So if anybody wants to do that, I would not drag your feet. Again, those tickets are free. We just have to have tickets because only so many people fit in the room. So that's the only reason. But anyway, so that's my commercial. I just wanted to let everybody know that we've added this honey show to the workshop. We've got Bob Binney will be there, Corey Stevens, Natalie Summers, Earl Hoffman, and then Jim Masucci will be speaking. And there'll be lots of vendors. Who are your vendors coming?
Oh, I don't know. There's a lot of them. Right now, I have 13 of 16 slots filled, or 12 of 16, something like that. So,
but yeah, so
really looking forward to that for sure. I mean, NABI as well, but I mean, that's for me, that's up there as well. Cause I mean, I know
NABI's much better.
Great job.
Everybody would agree NABI is much better. NABI's
pretty good.
He's been itching to say that.
I know.
Coming up, you know, I'm looking forward to it.
He says NABI's better, but he's coming to this too.
But yeah, I'm really excited for this.
Don't take it serious.
Yeah.
Actually, I had a guy
JW is going to enter the honey show
to be there.
Is he going to be a speaker too?
JW.
A speaker in the hallway. He'll be speaking in the hallway.
I'm sweeping the floors after they pick the popcorn.
I'm really excited about this honey show. I've been kind of organizing it since Tom and I went to the Illinois conference a few weeks ago, and we finally just got everything finalized literally last night. So I'm really excited to be adding the honey show and then the training council also the day before. So
she's been working.
JW, you don't have to sweep the floor for popcorn. We'll buy you some.
Hey, we can just see if what's his face, Sawmill Charlie can get some popcorn down here to us if he's got any left. Yeah, Brian says big room for politicking and small room for politicking. Nice balance. That's right. And Todd, were you going to be able to come out, or were you thinking about it too yourself?
Yeah, I'm thinking about it. I know I'm going to have to pull the trigger soon, but yeah, I'm not. Not 100% yet.
After December, not that it's a big deal either way, but after December, I think the ticket prices go up by $15.
Okay.
Like the early bird special will be over at that point in time.
Okay.
Brian asked how many tickets are left. I'm not even sure. Janet handles that, and I don't know. At this point, I think there was tickets left, but much like last year, within the last probably month or so, we had a lot of tickets sell. You know, there's always those pushes in tickets. You'll get a lot of push up front, then it'll go stale for a minute. And if something new is announced or what have you, you may get an influx of tickets again. And then there's always that last push. You know, when you announce the tickets for something 4 months in advance, you have your people that'll immediately jump on it, but then you're also going to have some people that'll wait to the last minute. It's just human nature. It is what it is. So right now there are plenty of tickets left for people to sign up and come, but I'm sure as we get closer, that'll start to get whittled down. And I have all the confidence in the world I can sell at all 400 tickets. So
that Honey
anyway.
Judge Council class, though, there are only 25 tickets available for that. So if anybody is coming in town and wants to do that, there is limited. There's only 20. That's the largest class size they do. So
yeah. So it was kind of cool.
He's one of those guys that you'll buy a ticket from him, Todd, just so to shut him up, because he just keeps
Brian,
coming at you.
Hey, I want to get as many people on here to come to this because we're all going to have a good time. Okay.
Where and when?
What? Come early or stay late, because you know what? I'll still have energy left after this thing is over. Okay.
Y'all haven't said where and when.
Oh, where and when? Well, this is going to be in St. Louis, Missouri. February 7th and 8th. The one-day conference is the 8th, but some of the stuff is going to start on the 7th, including the dinner.
So that's the website, easternmobeekeepers.com. Like Tom said, it's the 7th and the 8th. It's really going to be, there's a lot of stuff. If you go to the website, there's all kinds of different events those 2 days. So there's going to be, I don't think the training council tickets are posted yet. I literally just gave that information to Janet today. She'll have that posted by the end of the week, if not tomorrow. So there's tickets to that. That's a whole separate charge. We are also hosting a banquet Thursday night. I think those tickets are $50 or
Correct.
$48, something like that. It's a catered banquet. It's at the same event center. And then the day of the workshop, the following day, Saturday the 8th, you can buy tickets to that also. And you don't have to, I mean, if you're coming in town, you're not just going to come for the banquet. If you live in town, like, you can come to the banquet and not come to the workshop. So that, you don't have to buy all the tickets for everything. And then the other thing that's exciting is some of the vendors are coming in on Friday early to start setting up. And they've actually asked if we can open up the vendor hall that Thursday before the banquet. So we're probably going to do that, like a early shopping. You can come in and shop the vendors that are set up that Friday instead of waiting till Saturday for the workshop.
Here's a list of vendors. So just for clarification, the Honey Show Training Council class on Friday is $95. The banquet dinner that evening is $50. And I will vouch for, everybody knows that I'm a foodie on here. So it is from a very, very good restaurant, by the way. It will not disappoint. That's the one Melissa and I ate at the other day that I posted a picture to that some people were stabbing at me about, which is fun. And then, so that banquet dinner tickets are $49 or $50. And then the workshop the next day is $95. 16 vendors, 5 speakers, 2 different classes, beginner and experienced. Right now, the vendors I have signed up are Isabee's, which is our local beekeeping supply store, and we have a good one. The EMBA will have their own room plus a merchandise table. Nick with Motherload. We have a specific honey show room. Matthew with Comfort Pro Suits will be there. Bob Benny and his crew with Blue Ridge Honey Company will obviously he's speaking, but he's also going to be there as a vendor. And I'm giving him a 32 by 28 foot room, and he's going to fill it. Earl Hoffman with Strong Microbials, John Hill with Hillco, and he also gets the same size room, like a 28 by 32, and he's planning on filling it. I haven't heard back yet 100% on Hives for Heroes, but I feel confident that I think they'll be there. Greg Burns gave me 100% that he will be there, and he has a decent sized booth too. Let's see, I've got Dan Long with Easy Peasy Cages. If anybody does queen rearing and likes that, check out his cages. They're pretty awesome. And then I have a new guy that's going to be at Nobby. That's down in, kind of south of us, Arkansas. He's a company that's going to be debuting actually at the North American Honeybee Expo called 21st Bee. And he kind of gave me an idea of what he has, but he's like, I can share all the details, but you have to sign a non-disclosure agreement. And I said, not necessary. We just wanted to make sure we knew everybody what they were selling and products and things of that nature.
He's going through some patents. He's waiting for the patents to come back.
Right. So I've got a couple more on the hook that I probably should have there, but I probably shouldn't announce that I had there last year too. So I'll have a total of 16. So it'll be a pretty good vendor event too. Just a much scaled down version of what the North American Honeybee Expo is, obviously. So
just a quarter of an aisle.
if anybody can make it, I think it'll be a very good time with some really solid information. We've worked pretty hard on this one. So anyway, commercial break over.
3 hours. We're almost at 3 hours.
We have 50 seconds left.
Hey.
You forgot my popcorn stand. Don't forget to talk about
Hey,
my popcorn
you
stand.
come in town early, I will take you and get you popcorn, buddy.
All right, y'all.
We're gonna have a spot and call it JW's popcorn stand.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go ahead and shut the live down. I appreciate everybody.
Thank you, Lord. Get me out of here.
Hope everybody has a great Thanksgiving.
Make sure Matt doesn't go nowhere.
And we'll see, since we done Tuesday, we'll see what happens Saturday on the live.
Gobble, gobble. See y'all.
Good night, everybody.
Everybody.
Good night, everybody. Matt, don't go anywhere yet.
Okay.
See y'all later.
See ya.